is 95.7 The Game.
You bet your butt it is. This just feels right today. Hi, get everybody alongside Evan Giddings. Jersey Ken back again behind the glass.
Yes, sir.
Good morning to one and all. For the next 3 hours, we got you covered. We'll talk local sports. We'll get into Klay Thompson scrubbing an account. The NBA Finals suddenly are going to see a Game 5. And, of course, the San Francisco Giants continue their series with the Angels. But we start things with what else, Ev? My partner on Warriors this week, Golden State Warrior basketball dominating the calendar year-round. The latest being one Klay Thompson. Your initial thoughts?
Well, first of all, it's really glad to have you. I'm really glad to have you back in the saddle, Dan, because I don't know, we get to do a little switcheroo every once in a while Saturday. Got to keep things fresh, got to keep people on their toes. And I feel like that's exactly what Klay Thompson's doing. He's trying to keep people on their toes by unfollowing the Warriors, by it also appears removing pictures involving the Golden State Warriors for the last couple of seasons from his IG. And I also think it's a perfect place to start, Dan, because you are someone that is able to operate outside of the social media sphere. So I'm very curious what your thoughts are on this, because I know how I feel. I feel like it's either something that people perceive as being, I don't know, like a Gen Z move, or maybe it's strategic because this is what athletes do nowadays. But as somebody who I would like to think, and I believe kind of lives social media free, like what do you think of when you hear an athlete saying, oh, I'm just going to unfollow the team that I've been following the last 12 years?
Well, I think it's what's trending right now in step one, to let the other team know, to throw that first shot across the bow that you're disgruntled, that it's now official. You're disgruntled with the team. But I'm going to turn things back on you because you live in this world. And what I want you to do for the audience and people like myself is to detail the thought process for somebody who is a millennial, a Gen Z, somebody who lives in that social media world with an Instagram account and everything that means in terms of what the message is blatantly, what the subtle message is. What is it that Klay Thompson is trying to reveal not only to the Golden State Warriors, but to everybody else out there that's listening?
Well, I do think it is a strategic move, and it's probably one also that he's discussed with his agent. Free agency's coming up. It's a couple weeks away. July 1st. Is that it's open season. Everybody gets to determine where they go, what they want to do. And it does feel like Klay Thompson hadn't necessarily had the ball in his court, right? All we've discussed this offseason is how many years for Klay, at what price tag, does he fit? Is he still a shooter at this caliber? Is he declining? Where is he going to go? What can he do? Who can he help? And now it feels like with this move, it kind of turns the ball back towards him. It gives him, I think, a little more leverage. And it also, I think, affirms what a lot of people had been feeling about Klay, which he was disgruntled. He wasn't happy. And so I think it's twofold. Number one, it's strategic because you can use it as leverage. You can use it as bargaining power in saying that I just want to let you guys know that I'm not necessarily fawning to be a Golden State Warrior. I want to be one, but I don't have to be one. And then secondarily, I also think it's kind of a Klay Thompson move. Like, who else on the Golden State Warriors would scrub their social media than Klay Thompson? Like, that to me does scream Klay, because we know he gets in his feelings a little bit from time to time. He's a very emotive person. He's very genuine. He feels down there. He feels like one of us, which is, I think, a big reason why people love Klay Thompson. But it also is very fitting that of the elder statesmen on the team, I mean, Draymond didn't scrub his social media. I don't know if Steph ever would, but it feels like something that Klay Thompson would do.
Well, let me ask you this. In terms of level of importance, staying within that sphere of social media and specifically your Instagram account, in level of 10, it's imminent that he wants out. 1 being that, this isn't a big deal. It's just for, it's the middle of the summer and he's being Klay Thompson, and maybe he had a few fatties and he's sitting on his deck out in Tiburon and he's like, let me just mess with people. Again, for somebody who sort of lives much more closely in this world than do I.
Yeah.
What is the level of importance? How important should, say, Warrior fans, the Klay Thompson fans of the world this morning, what is the message that they should be reading into this? Is this Klay Thompson saying, I want out? Is this Klay Thompson just having fun at our expense? Just exactly gauge and take us through what it means to scrub your account in terms of this actually coming from push comes to shove and that he wants to go out. He wants out the door. What does this mean?
Well, I don't think many people have used social media scrubbing or unfollowing as an employment tactic, like as a business tactic. But I think a lot of people can relate to it from a relationship perspective. Maybe there's somebody that you used to be with or that, you're trying to get the attention of, and you can use social media just to let them know how you're feeling. It is a very Gen Z move. I don't even know if it's a millennial move because a lot of people out there wouldn't necessarily do that. But I think it's something like, all right, so if I'm, kind of going through some ups and downs with a certain person and I want to get their attention. And I know that there's somebody who pays attention to social media. I think the NBA is the most social media driven league, perhaps outside of the NFL that we have. But one of the reasons why everybody's glued to the off season, I think more than any other major American sport, is because of moments like this. It's because there's drama, because there's certain, just breadcrumbs that you can follow to a place of, well, is Klay Thompson going to be here? Is he not? What I would say to Warriors fans is I don't think that this social media scrubbing affects his contract situation one iota. I think at the end of the day, Klay Thompson is going to decide if he wants to be a Golden State Warrior or not. This is just a reminder to me that, hey, if I want to leave, I can. And I don't have a problem doing it. But it doesn't mean that he wants to. Again, we saw Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. People have scrubbed their social media before and remained with their team. So does it affect the way that I look at Klay Thompson's future in Golden State? It doesn't change the fact that I do believe it's a 50-50 call right now, no matter what. Pre-social media, post-social media. But it does feel now like, Dan, as opposed to before, the ball is in his court a little bit more. And I feel like that's the message that he's trying to send. Like, I still have the power in this. I still am what people, want me to be, which is, a four-time champ, a Hall of Fame. I still am that guy. And I just feel like it's kind of a subtle reminder of it. All
right, so you asked me how I perceive all this social media and somebody scrubbing their account for a guy that typically doesn't live in that space. I think it's a really weenie move. Not on the part of just specifically Klay Thompson, because I understand Klay is just, and hey, listen, it might have been one of his agents blowing into his ear. But this is how things are done in professional sports these days. I don't know that it necessarily means anything. Kyler Murray scrubbed his account.
Exactly.
That? I think it's just one of those where you're just letting people know. It's sort of it's almost as though it's the first step in negotiations. You mentioned Debo Samuel. A.J. Brown scrubbed his account. He went back to Philadelphia, signed a new deal. It's almost as though it's the first ploy. Mm-hmm. It's the first move in the chess game. Like, okay, let's move our pawn. Let's get this thing going. Let's let them know we're dissatisfied. More importantly, let's make this a little bit public and let everybody else out there know, the unwashed masses, that I'm unhappy and or read between the lines that the Golden State Warriors are not offering me a contract or they're not negotiating in good faith. However it is that you want to perceive that. But to me, in 2024, I don't like it. It's ridiculous. It's a weenie move in order to handling your business, but I understand it's the way things are done these days. To me, it's just the first step of what is going to be now the ongoing bartering and the back and forth between the two. Here's the one thing that I think everybody would like to see, hopefully is avoided and is avoidable, and you don't want this to get ugly. You don't want Klay scrubbing things and this to be a back and forth where Klay's like, screw you, and the Warriors are like, you know what, Klay, thank you so much. And this becomes one of those, I'm out of town, and let me just go anywhere else because the Golden State Warriors did me wrong. And I think sort of the initial knee-jerk reaction is that Klay Thompson's unhappy and he wants out. That's not the way this thing should end. Okay, even if he goes to another team, which I think there's a strong possibility.
Definitely.
You want that to be as amicable as possible. 4 titles. He's been with one team since 2011 when he joined the squad. It's one of the more epic runs of all time in terms of the foundation. You don't want this thing to go down this road.
Well, and that's why, to your point, Dan, I don't think Klay is feeling the love. Like, I don't think that he's feeling the love that he believes that he deserves, because he is a 4-time champ, because he is a future Hall of Famer. And generally, those players are taken care of. But I'm kind of with the 408 here, John from San Jose on the Xfinity Mobile text line. It is childish. It's an immature move that is also a shot across the bow.
Yeah.
It's a harmless shot across the bow, but that doesn't mean that it isn't childish. It doesn't mean that it isn't immature, especially for somebody who's 34 going on 35 years old.
And pulling down $43 million a year.
I mean, seriously. Yes, you're going to have to take a step back financially. Yes, you're probably going to have to take a step back as far as your role. These are all things that Klay Thompson's been wrestling with for the last 2 years since he returned from 2 horrific injuries. That's not going to change. And so this tactic to me is, in one sense, harmless because I don't think it affects his contract situation. But I think it's also something that he's letting us know that he doesn't necessarily need Golden State. I think he wants to be needed, or he wants to feel needed, and he's not feeling like it right now.
But isn't this the first sign and the most blatant and obvious omen that he does need the Golden State Warriors? Usually, if you're secure, you don't do things like this. To me, this is the biggest sign of insecurity, trying to prove to people that I don't need the Golden State Warriors, where we all know at the end of the day that you don't want to leave Tiburon. You don't want to leave Steph. You don't want to leave the people that you know in this area. You sure as hell don't want to go to Orlando and be in that part of the world, right? We've talked about that. I don't even think he wants to go to Philadelphia. You get to a certain point in your life where as an NBA player where you've made your money and you got the bag a couple of times over, it becomes a matter of quality of life. Just like I don't think LeBron James is ever leaving L.A., right? He's got everything in L.A., especially when you talk about Hollywood.
Don't let the Suns get brawny, Dan. Don't let the Suns get brawny.
By the way, that draft is coming up, and I don't know where I'll be, but I'll make sure as hell to contact you when Bronny goes in that second round to somebody.
To the Golden State Warriors.
So I think that Klay Thompson is showing that, to me, if you're just to look a little further than just this obvious, again, I agree with the text line that this is a childish move. Klay should be above this. I mean, for the younger players that are looking to get that first contract.
Though? Like, why?
If you're A.J. Brown, you're Kyler Murray, you're still young, and you still want to get that first deal, he's made his money. He's a little older. It's the Warriors. You've won titles with these guys. You know everybody in the front office. Like, this is, go call up Kerr. Just tell somebody that you're unhappy. I think Klay should be above this. This is something that, yeah, you would see another player who's maybe in his early 20s that's looking for his first big contract, that knows this is part of the negotiating ploy. I just like to think that maybe if this is Jordan Poole or if this is a younger player with the Golden State Warriors, that they do this. But Klay Thompson, Steph, Draymond, Looney, come on, guys. Aren't we above the fray a little bit?
I mean, you would hope so. But, Klay is... This is a quintessential Klay Thompson move, I believe. Like, I would not put scrubbing social media, even before it happened, above Klay Thompson, because that's kind of the person, like, he doesn't speak publicly. He doesn't go out and create firestorms publicly. He's a passive-aggressive dude.
Yeah. I
mean, he's the guy that is going to take shots at, a journalist who comes at him with a certain tone, who, he doesn't really feel like it is all, I feel like it's seriously, it depends on the day with Klay Thompson. He might wake up today and regret completely scrubbing his social media, but he woke up yesterday and felt like he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was on his deck in Tiburon, like you're talking about, smoking a J, thinking about life and going, it'll be kind of funny.
Yeah.
If I just unfollow the Golden State Warriors, take down these photos, maybe he also wanted to reorganize his feed. I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to see enough maybe he didn't want to see Golden State Warriors, associated images or videos or reels on his timeline. I mean, maybe he was trying to reorder his social media engagement. I don't know. Klay Thompson is trying to guess what Klay is going to do, or the reaction that he's going to have to perceived slights, to me it's just, it's an activity that's going to lead you nowhere, or it's going to lead you in circles. And I think Klay right here, it feels wrong. Like, Klay Thompson, come on, man. Like, come on. I'm not a fan.
Is your ire directed at Klay Thompson or the Warriors, or where are you at?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of both. I mean, it always takes two to tango. You're right. Klay should be above this, but every every time it feels like he does something, he just reminds us that he's still got a little immaturity about him. Like, again, this is an immature move. People have used it before as a business tactic, as a negotiating strategy. That doesn't make it not childish.
Yeah.
So do I think it impacts the contract negotiations? Not necessarily, but I also think he's trying to let other teams know too that I'm not married to the Warriors. Again, if he's going to test free agency, and I think he is, this is as harmless of a message as you can send that I'm open to all ears. Like, I'm open to all contracts. I'm open to all negotiations. It's not just me in Golden State.
I think there's a tremendous sense of insecurity when it comes to Klay Thompson. And you just see that borne out through his play. Remember he got into that little scuffle with Devin Booker and had to remind everybody, I've won 4 titles. How often does he say that? Jaden McDaniels, he got into it with the player from Minnesota early this year, actually got tossed from that game. And he always talks about, I'm the best. I'm one of the best. And he has to remind people how many titles he's won. He's the one guy in the Golden State Warriors that's always holding up the 4 rings or the 4 fingers. It's like, we know, man. And usually if you're secure, you don't have to tell anybody that. We know you're one of the best shooters. But it just seems as though he's having a hard time graduating into that space in life where you have to recognize I'm no longer that guy. I'm a little bit older, and that I can suddenly see the finish line of my career. And some guys are very gracious when they do that, and they know how to go out. He still thinks he's 27 years of age. And there's a level, I think, of high insecurity when it comes to Klay Thompson, and this is just another part of that. And I also think that Klay Thompson, he just gets down in the weeds, and he almost is Kevin Durant-esque, where he's willing to, if you disrespect him, regardless of who you are, he will, he'll go back and forth with you instead of just saying, or at least having the inner confidence of recognizing I'm one of the best guys. I'm a future Hall of Famer, one of the best players to ever do this. Arguably the greatest shooter that's ever lived. I got 4 titles. The majority, 98% of these coconuts playing are never going to sniff 2 of these things, and just be good with that and have that internal confidence as you go about your daily life. But that's not who he is. He's somebody that has to remind you. He's somebody that if you disrespect him, he has to tell you how many titles he's won and how good of a shooter he is. There's always been sort of this overt sort of sense of insecurity when it comes to Klay Thompson. And I think this is just another very obvious example of that. When it comes to the Golden State Warriors, maybe this is revealing that there has been another initial sort of offering on the part of the Warriors, that they took down the 24 that was reported a year ago, 24 per, and they're like, listen, we're now at about 18 to 20. I don't know. We're reading into this, and maybe this is what he wanted us to do. But if you're the Golden State Warriors, you hope that this doesn't get ugly. But Klay's got to understand that we're at a point now with you being 34, you're going to be 35 next year, that we can't obviously give you 43, and we can't give you 30, and we can't give you the 24 that reportedly you were offered during last offseason, that you're somewhere around 18 to 20. And if you can't come to grips with that, if you can't get your arms around that, then we do have to part ways. The Golden State Warriors cannot buckle whatsoever. Like, their mindset has to be, we have got to lower this payroll. And Klay Thompson is no longer the same player. We can detail that. I've done this for months now. He's no longer the same two-way player. He's soon to be 35, and this is the offer regardless of what it is that you're doing on social media.
I also think the reaction from fans is interesting too. And if you have an interpretation of it, if you have a thought on it, we do want to hear from you, 888-957-9570, because I also think one part of it too is perhaps Klay Thompson wanting to put a feel out of, well, how much love is there in the Bay for me? How much love out there is there for me in, say, Orlando or Philadelphia or whatever team he's been connected to as a potential free agent destination? Because I also think the reaction is something he's trying to find out. He's trying to see it. It felt like Klay Thompson was perhaps, Curry's in a different plane, but might have been the most universally beloved Golden State Warrior during their dynastic run, pre-injury, because of what you're talking about, Dan. It always felt like to me, yes, Klay Thompson had some passive aggression to him. Yes, he was a guy that was, I think, a little out of the limelight, but he always felt secure. Like, he always seemed very secure to me. One lasting image I'll always have of Klay Thompson is during I forget if it was the 2015 or 16 finals, but Curry's talking to LeBron and they're chit-chatting, and Klay Thompson is just the one walking through the middle and saying, just play ball. Like, just play ball, man. Like, just, stop talking, just play ball. This is not Klay Thompson just playing ball. Like, this is Klay Thompson trying to do something more, and it feels like he's been searching for something since he got those injuries that took away 2 years of his prime and affected the rest of his career. It feels like he's been fighting Father Time since he returned. And I don't understand why, Dan, because the first year he came back, he won a championship. And he still feels like he has to throw it in people's faces like Devin Booker. Or one of the first things that he said at the podium after winning a championship.
He went after Memphis.
He went after, I think, Jaren Jackson Jr. I can't wait to call that kid a bum. Like, why is your mind there? You're on top of the world.
Perfect example.
You're on top of the world, man. So this does align, again, that's why I think it's a quintessential Klay Thompson move. It does align with what we've seen the past 2 seasons. And in one breath, I can feel like I'm not surprised, because when I heard about it yesterday, me and Kay were out at the cafeteria having a pop, and I see it come through my timeline. I'm like, wow, Klay Thompson just scrubbed his social media. And Ken, you were actually on the air when it happened. Like, you guys discussed it yesterday. I'm just curious what you thought, like your initial reaction to when you see the notification from our Twitter account that goes out that says Klay Thompson has unfollowed the Golden State Warriors.
I mean, the first thought that runs through your mind is like, okay, what are you saying to us? Like, what is he saying right now? And we started checking to see if he started unfollowing started following, I should say, other sports teams like the 76ers, the Orlando Magic. He's not following those teams, but yeah, it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, now we were talking about Brock Purdy for a second, and it's like, nope, we got to pivot just to this. Forget Brock Purdy, forget Trevor Lawrence, forget the money.
Yeah,
we got to talk about Klay Thompson. It kind of just like was a little bit of a not a gut punch, but just like a reality check. Like, oh, he wants to get serious now.
Yeah.
He's getting serious.
You know what would be the ultimate Klay Thompson move is if he scrubbed the Golden State Warriors and just randomly, it has nothing to do with anything, but then just opened up an OnlyFans account. Like, what's going on here? Like, this is making no sense. Here's what I would say, and this should not be coming from me. The last guy, not only in this room, but in this planet that's about to say what it is that I'm about to say. I'm the last guy who should be delivering this message, but you know what? Part of that insecurity, Klay Thompson, my man, you got all the money in the world. You're a good-looking dude. Go get married, start a family. It's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers who gets into this silly stuff. It's the same thing with Kevin Durant. Redirect that energy somewhere else so you can put life in its proper perspective so that everything isn't weighed in on social media and, oh, the Warriors disrespected me. If you have something else in your life, that structure, whether it's a family and a wife, you can see things sort of properly through a different lens. And I think that lens, part of what it is that we're seeing with Klay Thompson. I hate to go down that road and get into the man's personal life, but I can't help but sort of connect the dots when you see Aaron Rodgers, also a single guy with all the money in the world, do similar type things. Kevin Durant is also a single guy with all the money in the world that also gets into sort of this back and forth and sort of an immature, childish behavior. I don't know. I think that there's something there. Again, I'm the last guy that should be providing that sort of advice to anyone, but this speaks more about the issues with the Golden State Warriors, a contract, free agency. It has more to do with, I think, Klay Thompson, a level of insecurity and where he's at in life, that he has to do something like this. Is sort of my bigger takeaway in all of this.
Well, first of all, shout out to Joe Spadoni, who just texted, I believe, from the 831. My wife scrubbed me off her social media when I forgot her birthday. I mean, that is a shot. And shout out to the great Jade Spadoni.
Wow, dude.
That's pretty funny, actually. So, I mean, it could be Klay having fun. Where I want to go next in the next part of this, I do think it takes us into a little bit the relationship between the Warriors and Klay Thompson, because I believe that it's been slowly eroding since he feels like he got lowballed last offseason with a 2-year, $48 million contract extension. That's clearly not what he wants. That clearly isn't what he's wanted all year. And I feel like this is kind of a little bit of a peek behind the curtain as to what the real root of the problem is when it comes to Klay and the Warriors.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's continue the conversation with Klay Thompson once again scrubbing his Instagram account. What does that mean? Let us know. Give us a call, 888-957-9570. When we come back, we'll officially open up the phone lines. We want to hear from you. Do you think Klay Thompson, is this the first indicator, the first omen that he's on his way out of town? And how about from the other side of the fence, the Golden State Warriors? Are they doing him wrong? Are the Golden State Warriors a team that, quite frankly, when you think about contractually and the way they handle their players, very rarely do you hear somebody say that the Golden State Warriors, for lack of a better word, are a cheap organization. And this is the same team that gave him that $43 million and the extension, the 43 per, after, of course, they knew that he'd be unavailable for a year and a half and 2 years after tearing the Achilles and of course, tearing his ACL as well. Klay Thompson scrubs his account. What does that mean for the Golden State Warriors going forward? Do you think he'll be in uniform when the Warriors open up the season next year? All those questions and much, much more. It's Evan Giddings. It's Jersey Ken. We're just getting started on a beautiful Saturday. Back with much more right after this on 95.7 The Game.
If you're looking for the most epic place on earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then
Now back to 95.7 The Game.
Welcome back. Evan Giddings, Dan Devone, Jersey Ken alongside. We've got you covered for the next couple of hours talking about the Golden State Warriors and one Klay Thompson, who has decided to scrub his social media account of anything that resembles the Golden State Warriors. And, of course, and he knew this, right? He knew that he would go ahead. It's the NBA Finals. People haven't talked about me for a while. And he knew by dropping this bomb that guys like us would be here in front of a live mic and leading off, as we like to say in the industry, it leads the rundown. It's in the A block. And Klay Thompson, this is exactly what he wanted. Let's get this out there. Let's let people know that I'm disgruntled. That's the reason behind all of this. And so, well, thank you very much, Klay. And what we thought of as being sort of a slow day before we start, crushing the San Francisco Giants. We'll talk about you and the Golden State Warriors, but let's just start there with the Warriors. Ev, what is their culpability, if any, in this?
Well, I don't think they're culpable, but what I do think it does, and what I was referring to before the break in regards to the relationship between Klay and Golden State, what I think it does is it affirms, for me, Dan, it affirms the rumblings of disgruntlement. It affirms all of the rumors or the reports that we've heard over the last, I would say, year plus. Again, since he reportedly received a 2 for $48 million contract extension and turned it down immediately, and then went into a free agency season to bet on himself. Everything that we've seen and heard the last year about Klay Thompson not being happy, maybe it was his role, not feeling respected, not feeling like he's being treated like the 4-time champ that he believes he is, or the Hall of Famer, all the rest. All that feels real. All that feels like reality. Because when I see someone scrub their social media, it's not because, I don't think it's because they're messing with people. I think it's because they're trying to use it as a message, again, a shot across the bow that they aren't beholden to their current employer, that they aren't locked in lockstep with their employer, in this case, the Golden State Warriors. So if I'm the Warriors, I don't think they're necessarily culpable in this. The only thing that I guess they would be culpable for would be not giving Klay Thompson what he wants. But as we've discussed ad nauseum over the last year, Klay Thompson's not in a position to ask for $43 million anymore. He's not in a position to maybe even ask for $30 million a year anymore. He might not even be in a position to ask for 25. He might not get more money than Draymond Green. And to go from a $40+ million player and basically slash your salary in half, especially with the rising cap and the amount of money that players are making for, if you're crying out loud, Jaylen Brown's going to be making $60 million in a couple of years. Klay Thompson, that is not your future. Your future is probably as a guy that is a shooter, can help a team in some ways, shape and form, and you're not that guy anymore. And I feel like that's a hard reality to come to grips with.
I think it's a weenie move. I think that, again, for a guy like that, Klay Thompson, who represents the Golden State Warriors dynastic run, that I was hoping that he'd be above this, handle it a different way. Leave it for the Kyler Murrays, the A.J. Browns, the younger players who are looking to get that first big contract to go through what is now sort of this maneuver by today's younger players in the negotiating in the back and forth and trying to get a new contract. For a guy like that, Klay Thompson, synonymous with titles, is going to be a Hall of Famer. Again, representative of the 4 NBA titles of the Golden State Warriors, doing something like this. I mean, look, it's not earth-shattering, right? But it's a weenie move, man. It's be bigger than that, I guess, is my initial takeaway. We want to hear from you guys. What do you think about it? 888-957-9570. We kick things off with Rich in Fremont. Rich, what do you got? How are you today?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for taking my call. Look, I don't think that the Warriors disrespected him. I think they did him a solid. Okay, let's keep it real. How many guys in the NBA, when they were injured, received a max deal? How many? None. Klay Thompson's the only one who did that. Okay? So my whole take is this. If I'm Klay Thompson, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to be smart. Okay? I'm going to take whatever deal the Warriors give me, and I'm going to stay with the Warriors. I'm going to work on getting the possibility of a 5th title. Because if I do that, guess what? I'm not just cemented. I am rooted in the NBA. I'm rooted. Why? Because I stay with one franchise, just like Michael Jordan. I got 5 titles, and I'm a Hall of Famer. There's nothing the NBA won't do for me if I do that. Okay? Now, sure, yeah, you can go someplace else, yeah, and you can get more money. But guess what? Your career, okay, it still would be rosy because you did what you did. But if you stay with Golden State and you do what you need to do to possibly get a 5th title, you are, hey, you're the guy. You're the guy. No one's going to not listen to you if you do that. That's my take, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Good job, Rich. Way to kick us off. You know what Klay Thompson would say? Because you hear this a lot, that the Golden State Warriors did right by him by giving him the 43 per and the max deal after knowing he was injured. You know, Klay Thompson's initial knee-jerk reaction to all of that is, what else were they going to do? And he makes a point. Yeah. Can you imagine if they didn't do that? I mean, the Golden State Warriors had to give him that contract. It's not as though, I mean, imagine the Golden State Warriors had they lowballed him after the injury. Like, that wasn't even a possibility.
Yeah, and also, I think it would have been different, for example, if the Achilles tear didn't happen successively. I mean, you couldn't foresee that he would work his way back from his ACL tear and then tear his Achilles. That's why the 2 injuries in a row are so catastrophic. And Klay's right. Like, the fact that he's been able to come back from that and play as much as he has and contribute as much as he has probably is something that's never happened before. We may never see it again. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you're still declining as a player. You're not what you used to be. And so we, as the Golden State Warriors, cannot compensate you as the player you once were. We cannot pay you like you are the best 2-way player in the world anymore, which is what he was at the time of his ACL tear. That's why he received a max deal, because the Warriors still thought that he could give them very high level of production. Still one of the greatest shooters ever. But he's not that anymore. And so I don't know if it's necessarily about the scrubbing of social media for me, Dan, because you're right. Like, it's childish, it's immature, it's a weenie move, it's all of those things. But I just think it's still, I don't know, kind of lets us in a little bit to how Klay Thompson perceives himself, which is having the leverage. And I don't think he does.
Yeah, so again, just when we think about the Golden State Warriors giving him the extension after the injuries, I'm going to defend Klay a little bit on this, in that that's not benevolent on the part of the Golden State Warriors. That's not the Golden State Warriors acting in good faith. The Warriors had to. Like, the Warriors' hands were tied. There was nothing else that they could do. You had to give him, because he earned it. He earned that extension. It's not about the Golden State Warriors being this franchise that gave him an extension where the majority of other teams would not. No, he deserved it, and any other team would have done the exact same thing if they were in a similar position. So on that one, Klay Thompson, you're absolutely right. Oh, Austin and San Jose, let's get this thing going. Austin, I've been waiting for you, my man. Let's hear from you. What do you got on Klay Thompson scrubbing an account, my man?
What's up, A?
Yeah, I'm not going to – I'm going to say this first and foremost, man. You know, we all love Klay and what he's accomplished. I think we can say that and then go the other way and say, okay, now let's get into what's going on now. And it's layers to it. Number one, for me, this should not be a surprise. I sort of have been watching Klay from a distance in his actions. You know, everybody talks about Draymond and you know, some guy's car doesn't work, it's Draymond's fault. Some guys on the team's having problems with his girlfriend, it's Draymond's fault. So we've kind of got to the point where everything that goes wrong with the Warriors has been Draymond. Well, beneath the surface, I don't think Klay has been a great teammate over the last couple of years. I think that even when Poole was here, you know, I think Thompson had resistance. This year was pretty apparent. I mean, it came out this week that the guy went nuts when he was relegated to the bench, and I don't think he ever accepted that. Even though he acted like he did. I don't think Klay Thompson had accepted being the sixth man off the bench. I don't think he'll ever accept that. So I think those are just realities. I do think that the Warriors tried to get ahead of this whole thing by offering him the extension to 2 years at 48. I think they wanted to get ahead of it and avoid what's going on now. Unfortunately, Klay Thompson's camp, he has a right to not accept it, but I think now we're at a point now where Klay wants more. And if I'm Joe Lacob, I got to believe somewhere in Lacob's mind, he thinks he made him a fair offer, guys. And it takes me back to the Harrison Barnes thing a little bit, where Harrison Barnes years ago was offered a contract extension, totally different circumstances, but he turned it down, and we know what happened. So I'm wondering out loud if this is a kind of indication of this thing could be going in a direction that people maybe never saw, that Klay Thompson could be playing someone else. And the final thing on that is if Klay Thompson can get $30 million or whatever from someone else, fans should say, okay, good. You know, wish him good luck. We got 4 titles with this guy. I don't think the Warrior fans should be going crazy because Klay Thompson decides to play elsewhere, guys. That's kind of my take for Saturday. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Austin. I can't see him playing for another team. I just can't. And to me, this is the first piece, once again, in this chess match between him and the Golden State Warriors, along with him and his agent. They've made the first move on the chessboard. And it's the first move to come back to the Golden State Warriors, believe it or not. I cannot see him again playing for another team. And what he's going to have to do is eat crow and come back for a deal. I think it's going to come around $20 million on the high end. And I think he'll be in a Warrior uniform. And quite frankly, all of this is going to be, it's going to be forgotten, but it's going to be somewhat embarrassing if you ever to bring this up like, Klay, really? You scrubbed your account and you're back with the Golden State Warriors. We knew you were going to be here the whole time. Your thoughts, can you realistically see him in Orlando or Philadelphia in a New York Knicks uniform next year?
Not if he's smart. I think the best place for Klay Thompson is Golden State, because if he re-signs with the Warriors, this unfollowing, this scrubbing, it's a nothing burger. It's water under the bridge. But if you leave, then it does become something. I also don't think that anywhere else Klay Thompson can be Klay Thompson. I'm talking about the person. I'm talking about the player. This is his home. And you're right. I do think it's eventually going to end up with him eating crow in regards to the amount of money that he probably wants and the amount of money that the Warriors are willing to give him. I don't think that scrubbing his social media makes Joe Lacob look at him differently, makes Mike Dunleavy look at him differently. They've known Klay for 12 years. I mean, this is a guy that, to Austin's point, the Bay Area knows and loves. That's also why it is a weak move. That is also why it is a childish tactic, is because if you do have that kind of support and love from a fan base that you will know nowhere else. One thing that I find hilarious is people talking about Klay being able to just go to Philadelphia or go to New York. Dude, those markets would swallow him whole. Could you imagine in Philadelphia the next day, if Klay Thompson went 0 for 10 in an elimination game, he would be lambasted. He would be roasted on a spit and then spit out by the sports media town that is Philadelphia. I'm serious.
Ben Simmons line too.
You could make a case that we're easy on Klay, because I guarantee you if he did that in another major market in which he doesn't have a connection to, if you go somewhere else, you are no longer the 4-time champion you are to the Warriors. You no longer get the benefit of the doubt when you perform poorly, because if you are a free agent and you go to a destination to help them, you're expected to help, not hurt. And so if Klay Thompson doesn't have a great season next year for, I don't know, Orlando or Philly or wherever he goes, he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt of a 4-time champion, I believe, that he would get here. Yes, people have come down his road. Yes, he feels like fans have turned on him probably more so than ever before in his career, but there's still a contingent of fans. There's still a contingent of loving fans that will always have that reverence for Klay Thompson. That will be ride or die for Klay Thompson, even if he has a poor season or a poor game. And to me, if Klay Thompson's smart, he does everything in his power to stay in Golden State, because Klay Thompson doesn't go anywhere else and have the same kind of emotional impact on those communities.
I think there should be sort of this edict that if you're over the age of, say, 32 and you have made as much money as, say, a Klay Thompson and you've won titles, that it should be disallowed for you to scrub your account or do what it is that he did. That you got to handle this thing like a man. Like this is something that's relegated for, Brandon Ayuk, a Kyler Murray, and A.J. Brown. You're looking to get your first big free agent deal. You're still in your early 20s. You're still proving yourself. But at age 34, 4 championships, you're Klay Thompson. You're cemented as one of the greatest. You're synonymous with titles. Come on, man. Come on. You should be bigger than this, man. We shouldn't be talking about it. But I'm with you. This means nothing at the end of the day, because I do think he's coming back to the Golden State Warriors. Spencer, Oakland, California. Spencer, what's on your mind, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. I think this is, I look at Klay Thompson as a cerebral guy, right? He likes to get out on his boat. He likes to meditate. He likes to get a clear headspace, kayak, whatever the case may be. I really do think this is much ado about nothing, but maybe he just. And I also just want to state, I don't think he scrubbed his account. Of course, he had somebody else do it. And I just think this is like, okay, let me just clear my mental space. Let me just get away from things. Let me let my agent do what he's got to do, and just be Klay Thompson. And honestly, I kind of, whatever he ends up doing, I'll be more than happy for him with all that he's done for Warriors basketball, for the Bay Area in general, all the titles. I'll be more than happy for him. I think I don't think there's really anything that Klay Thompson could do that would make me upset with Klay Thompson. I really don't look at it in that way. I just look at it as he's going through his process, and whatever that process does or wherever it takes him, God bless him, and thank you for the journey. I honestly feel like this was gone and done a long time ago, like a couple of years ago. And we've been kind of coming down and cruising towards like a soft landing for a while. And I think most Warrior fans recognize the dynasty is no more, and we really have to find a new way to get it done here. And, I think the Warriors front office kind of knows that too, which is why we're seeing what we're seeing. So, love Klay Thompson. Nothing he can really do that would upset me. This is really much ado about nothing, and I really do think it's just Klay being Klay. Let me clear my headspace. Let me kind of just go be in my zone. And if he does end up on the Magic, you know what? I'm going to be a Magic fan except for when they play the Warriors. Just because I love Klay Thompson that much, and I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he goes over there and puts up 25 a game and is amongst the leaders in 3-pointers and in the league again. So if that's what happens. So, if he comes back to the Warriors, fantastic. I would love that too. But either way, much love to him, and I wish him nothing but the best and nothing but happiness in his life because he deserves it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people echo that sentiment. Ev, what were you going to say?
No. He kind of got me thinking about the whole idea of, Klay kind of resetting. Because I do think that is something like, what do you give me for this? I don't know. Kay's not back there. But it feels like this is his millennial meditation. Like a millennial meditation. Because Klay Thompson is somebody that... Well, so is that.
Why are you turning to Jersey Ken about meditation? Are you kidding me? This guy hasn't meditated a day in his life.
What do you... Come on. All right.
My brain is always scrambled, so yeah, there's no way.
No, but that means you need meditation.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is actually, I feel like this is a great case study right now. Because Klay Thompson, I feel like has had his brain, it feels like it's like scrambled. It's felt scrambled the whole year. So what's a better way to reset and just... I don't know, go on a boat, be out there, get off social media, unfollow the Warriors, get them off your timeline, get rid of these pictures, then to just scrub your social media.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing we were talking about yesterday on Willard and Dibbs is like, Willard made the point of like, this guy is in his head more than anybody else. And for him to go on social media and do that, you're like, okay, what do you really want to say to us? Like, why can't you just come out and just say, hey, this is what I want. But by doing that, you're kind of, again, you're sending almost a mixed message, even though you're saying, there needs to be a negotiation process, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think that, again, I just get back to the fact that he spends so much time, because this is a calculated move, that things like this, it's very similar to Kevin Durant clapping back with fans. Aaron Rodgers does this annually. It's 3 men in their mid-30s that have all the money in the world, but really don't have a lot of structure outside of basketball. I hate even going down this road, and who am I to pass judgment on someone's personal life? But there is a connective tissue here that, get married, man. Spit out some kids and redirect a lot of that energy so that all of this makes sense, and you're going to be you will recognize how fortunate you are to do what it is that you're doing, and that you're with a team like that of the Golden State Warriors, who essentially, for the most part, have done right by you. And I think it makes this transition maybe a little easier. Let me ask you this, Ev. just think about this. If he does go to Orlando, you know how this is going to end. He'll play in Orlando for what, maybe a couple
2 years.
Yeah. He's going to look like, it's going to be so odd seeing him in a Magic uniform. And then, it's going to be the one wart on this brilliant career. It's almost as bad as Joe Montana in a Kansas City Chief uniform. Jerry Rice was rocking the Seattle Seahawk uni. Now I get it. Football's different.
Olajuwon in Toronto.
They were forced out of the San Francisco 49ers to a certain degree, but this is just, you don't want to do this. Just step back, be big picture for a bit, because this has happened, not only here locally, but you're right. Olajuwon, you can go down the list. It's just going to be an ugly ending to what should be not only a brilliant career on the court, but somebody, again, that was beloved by so many people. What do you got, Kim?
I was just going to say, do you think he wants lesser of a role? I mean, I know he got benched with the Warriors, early in the season and all that, and then eventually became the starter again. But like, if he goes to a place like Orlando, I don't think he's going to be the number 2 guy there. He may just be maybe not even be the third guy there. And even in a place like New York or Philly, like if the New York Knicks were to take Klay Thompson, I'm not looking at him as one of the top guys for us.
If he goes to Orlando, I believe he becomes the second highest scorer on the team next to Banchero.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's going to be looked upon as being...
Wagner, maybe.
Well, Wagner, I think, was like at 16, and Klay comes in at 17, and Banchero was just over that, like maybe 18 and a half a game. So he's sandwiched in between those guys. So he's going to be thought of as a guy that is like, even though I think anybody that watches him on a nightly basis clearly sees that this guy is now a role player in the NBA, but a team like that of Orlando, I think, is going to put him into a situation where, listen, we need your 17 a night in order to be competitive.
Well, I think to Ken's point, that's the bigger part of this in regards to Klay. I don't think it's necessarily just about money. I don't think it's necessarily just about his destination. I think it is about him wrestling with his basketball mortality, that he is no longer a featured player in the league. Like, not just on the Warriors. He might have to come back and go to the bench. In Orlando, he might be the third or fourth. I just feel like it's that he's wrestling with more so than all the other things. And in regards to his social media scrubbing, I think it's just a subtle message that I have options, that I don't need just the Golden State Warriors. And I think he wants to be here. I think the Warriors want him here. But with Klay, to me, the question that I have is not why'd you scrub your social media. It's what kind of basketball player do you think you are? Or not in a derogatory term, but what kind of, like, how much do you think you have left in the tank? Because if you don't have much, and I don't see that you have much, I can't feature you like you're the second best player on our team anymore. I can't have you taking 25 shots a game, because that's going to hurt us. That's why I still feel like the best place for him is with the Warriors. It is as a sixth man, and I think that's how he can proverbially ride off into the sunset. Going to Orlando, I mean,
it's going to be ugly.
Seeing Patrick Ewing in a Supersonics jersey is just dumb. Like seeing Olajuwon in a Raptors jersey is stupid.
Yeah, and speaking of Patrick Ewing, also played for the Raptors as well, did he not? Or the Magic? Maybe I'm thinking the Magic.
Maybe it was the Magic.
Yeah.
you can't even remember. I mean, like these, and I know Ewing didn't win a title or anything, but to their team, the franchise players, to me, at all costs, should try and remain there. Now, is Klay Thompson what's best for the Warriors in the grand scheme of things? That's debatable. A lot of fans don't feel like he has much left. He can help this, he can help that. But what is best for Klay Thompson is to keep his wagon hitched to number 30 and number 23. Those are his guys. And that's who I want to see him retire with.
Yeah, and I think that if you're going to do it, you got to tear a page out of the script from Tom Brady. Go to Tampa Bay, as ugly as that is and as painful as that was for New England Patriot fans, and go win a title so that you are proven right at the end of the day. But Klay Thompson ain't winning the title with Orlando. It's going to be ugly, and we all know that. And Klay Thompson is not going to be the quarterback of a team like that of Tom Brady. So, if you're going to do it, beat Tom Brady. But he doesn't have there's nothing that's presenting itself where he has the opportunity to be similar in terms of what Tom Brady was able to accomplish in his last dance in winning a championship with another team. All right, we continue. We're going to continue with the Klay Thompson conversation I do want to talk about the Golden State Warriors and Klay Thompson as far as the negotiations and enough of this passive-aggressive crap. That and much more. It is Evan Giddings, it's Dan Devone, and Jersey Ken back right after this.
Hey, it's Willard for Safeway. Enjoy these amazing digital deals. And as always, earn 4 times reward points on hundreds of exclusive offers with your Safeway app. USDA.
You know what would be the ultimate Klay Thompson move is if he scrubbed the Golden State Warriors and just randomly, has nothing to do with anything, but then just opened up an OnlyFans account.
Now back to 95.7 The Game.
All right, back alongside Evan Giddings and Big Ken, Jersey Ken joins us. Hey, Ken, do you mind if I ask how many followers you have on Instagram? You don't have to tell me if it's if it's an embarrassing number.
Oh, yeah.
Like 4?
Yeah. it ain't Klay Thompson's. It ain't that many as Klay Thompson's. But.
Well, would you ever, how many times
who would you unfollow on social media and why?
And have you?
Who would I unfollow? You know what? The only people I unfollow, and it's kind of weird. Well, I guess it's not that weird, but the only people I will unfollow is players that for my teams, like the Mets, the Dolphins, the Knicks. If they go to other teams, I'm like, I don't care about you anymore. I'm going to unfollow. Yeah. I don't need to see what you're doing in another city.
So like Javi Baez is dead to you.
Oh, I'd never followed Javi Baez.
No.
with a 2-month rental.
Well, let me ask you this. How does this work? Ev, you can chime in on this as well. How does this work in terms of relationships these days? You're seeing somebody, suddenly it doesn't work out. Obviously, you guys are following each other on social media.
Sure.
Does that get awkward?
Probably. I mean, all right, so let's say I have, I don't know, a little bit north of 1,000 followers on IG. Feel free to follow me at Evan A. Giddings. But when I meet someone, eventually you get to the point where you follow them or, you friend each other, I don't know, whatever. And yeah, after I'm done, at least this is the way that I operate, and maybe it's shallow or maybe it's, I don't know, childish, but I'm either all in or all out.
Yeah.
So if we're together and I'm seeing you, then yeah, I want to see you on social media. I want to see what you're posting. I want to interact with you on social media. I want to send you things. But if I'm not with you, I'm just going to unfollow you.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to, I don't want to particularly see you. Especially if it's a tough break or something like that, if it comes out of nowhere. Yeah, like I don't think that is necessarily out of bounds. And if I don't know, if we happen to rekindle our relationship and romance in the future, then I'll follow you again. But I think for a lot of people, the idea of unfollowing someone means there's a disinterest. Like it signals a space that you either can't handle what they're putting on their pages or you're just not interested in them anymore. And I think that's why people have been just hounding, this Klay Thompson story, and where we're continuing to talk about it is because it does signal something. It might be harmless. It also might be childish, but it does signal that Klay Thompson potentially has a disinterest in the Warriors that wasn't there before.
See, here's my issue with you guys and your generation.
What do you mean?
Like, you would follow somebody if you're interested in them. But once you start dating, then you're like, let's unfollow each other because we're together. I got you. Like, I know what it is that you like. I know what it is that you dislike. This is between us. It's an intimate relationship. Like, the following on social media comes to an end once we start hanging out or once we become an item.
Really?
When I'm aspiring to hang out with you, well, then I'll follow you. Oh, you like this. You might be over there. Maybe I'll stalk you or something weird like that. I mean, you can follow somebody before you officially start dating. Once you start dating, I mean, come on, man. Why would you let social media get in the way of an intimate relationship? Like, you really need to see what it is that you're doing. I can call you or I'm going to see you later today. I know what the hell you're going to wear. I know we're going to lunch. I'll be right there next to you.
No, but it enhances the relationship, I think.
Oh, you guys need help.
Because you can, I mean, obviously, I'm not just there to see what you're posting or what your story is. But maybe I can glean something. For example, if the woman I'm seeing posts a story on her IG about, I don't know, this bakery or, I don't know, a coffee shop that she's at. Okay, well then next time I can go to that place and grab her something because I know that she likes it.
But you would have already known. You would have already been privy to that information because of the relationship.
Not necessarily though. Or there might be places that she's exploring or that, I just feel like, Dan, yes, I'm not on it religiously, but to unfollow someone when you become a thing, I don't know about you, Kit. Well, you're married, so it's a little different. Like, why would you unfollow someone the moment you have a relationship with them?
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't follow them. Like, you follow them when you start the relationship. So to unfollow.
In fact, that might piss them off.
I was just about to say, you're trying to start a war over here, Dan.
I'm telling you, you guys live in the dark ages, man. There's no.
You live in the dark ages.
Well, here's a bigger point. In all seriousness, and Ken, maybe you can relate to this, and Ev, you certainly can as well. The one thing why I enjoy New York, and you guys know this, and one of the reasons why I love sort of back east, is that there's oftentimes, and this is both good and bad, there's no filter, okay? There's no passive-aggressive back east, right?
There's no scrubbing of social media.
If you ask somebody directions, they may tell you, what are you, an idiot? It's 4 blocks to your left, and then you want to make a right. But he's going to tell you, or she's going to tell you. They will talk to you. Out here, there's all this, well, what did you mean? There's this passive-aggressive. You don't necessarily say what it is you're thinking, but you got to read between the lines. Or, let me get that message in a bottle and hold it upside down in the mirror and find out what it is exactly that you're trying to tell me. Just tell the damn person what it is you're thinking. So you know what I'd like to do with Klay Thompson, Ev? If I'm the Golden State Warriors, just say, okay, how about this? Instead of scrubbing your account because you're not 14 years old, Klay Thompson, what is it that you want? How many years? How much money would you like with the Golden State Warriors? And then maybe we can counter that. How is that as a discussion going forward?
Well, but yes, like ideally you have all these conversations behind closed doors, and then it gets revealed to the public whenever that decision is officially made of whether he's going to Orlando or whether he's re-signing with the Warriors with the number. I don't know, whatever. But using social media as a tool of negotiation, I don't think is a harmful tactic. Like I think, in fact, this is as harmless as you can be with negotiating publicly, not directly. Like I do think it is a signal, it is a message, but it's not one that I'm going to look at and say, oh my God, Klay Thompson, he's done. He's done with the Warriors because he unfollowed him on social media. The thing that I find fascinating about it, though, Dan, is you brought up when football players have done this, most notably, I don't know, Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel, it's because they're getting their first bag. Klay Thompson is in all probability getting his last bag. That, I do wonder if there's something that kind of switches there, or that his agent looked at as an opportunity to try and, I don't know, just push the ball back into his court a little bit. Like we've seen it for guys, and in football, your first bag might be your only bag. So maybe it is your last bag. I just think it's interesting that Klay Thompson does it now when he's already been paid and he's already gotten this huge lump sum of money. It is a little weird from that standpoint.
I don't know how this works from a PR standpoint. If you're Klay Thompson and if you're one of his minions, do you think of this is going to garner public support? Because more often than not, it doesn't. I'm trying to think of when a player does this. Even Deebo Samuel, who I think Deebo had a much stronger case. It obviously came back to the San Francisco 49ers. But even when Deebo did that, it was initially perceived as really scrubbing your account. I honestly think that this is going to be something that's going to be short-lived. Because I don't think that the feedback, and look at the calls and the messages for the most part, are predominantly anti-Klay, for an area that beloves this man. But this, again, I think is just sort of a weenie move. I think it's true for any athlete that does this, and hopefully this is just sort of something that's trending now, and that a year, 2 year, 5 years from now, that this won't be sort of the negotiating ploy or tactics in terms of trying to procure a new contract. And especially for someone like Klay Thompson, who I would like to think is above the fray. Somebody that at age 34 has won 4 titles with the Golden State Warriors, that, leave this to the A.J. Browns and the Kyler Murrays of the world, and maybe even the Brandon Ayuks. Young bucks who are still in their early 20s trying to get their first chicken. Not you, bro. You're synonymous with Steph and Klay and Steve Kerr, and you know the rest. You know the song and the dance. Don't do this. I don't see the public sentiment initially for anybody that's done this where they're like, good move. Yes, I'm with A.J. Brown. If anything, this sort of tarnishes the reputation initially. Do you agree?
I would disagree. Like this doesn't change the way that I look at Klay Thompson because again, off the top, I just think it's a very quintessential Klay Thompson move. Like if there's one guy on the Golden State Warriors that I feel like would scrub his social media, it'd probably be Klay, or Klay would be close to the top. What I do think is also interesting. Like, so do you feel the same way about this as when Draymond Green puts out a podcast after getting suspended?
No.
Do you think that's more damning? It's more more in bad taste than this. Because I feel like we're getting some reaction from people on the Xfinity Mobile text line that are just, I don't know if this is the last straw or they've been done with him before, but it certainly isn't helping. Like, hey, just get out of here. Like, if you want to unfollow the Warriors, just get out of here. And I feel like there's a lot of that reaction whenever Draymond does a post-game pod after, I don't know, sending a spinning back fist into a Slovenian.
Well, here's the thing when it comes to Klay Thompson and scrubbing your account. It's that when you're thinking about typically when players are doing it in this day and age, these are free agents that, again, are looking to get their first big deal. Kyler Murray, A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and they're typically guys that are still climbing up the mountain. They are very much in the prime of their career. Klay Thompson, from the public sentiment and the public perspective, is somebody that's talked to whomever, he'll divide the room, is already on the fence as to whether or not he should come back as a Golden State Warrior. There are a lot of people that feel as though that the Warriors should move off of him. I'm one of those. I think that the Warriors need to get young, and there's no room on this Klay Thompson. There's no room for players like Klay Thompson. I'm very, I have no issues about telling you straight up that this team is better off with Klay Thompson. But there's a lot of people that feel as though he's so beloved. You can still ride him. You can still shoot it. And statistically, that's proven that there's still a role for this guy on this basketball team. But it's debatable. So it's not as though he's this young player that's dominating the league. It's being disrespected by his team in this negotiation ploy. He's a guy who's on his way out. He's got maybe he can squeeze 3 years out. All this does is accentuate the fact that all this does is light the fire and accelerate the people that think he should leave prematurely. The fact that the people that are anti-Klay, this emboldens their argument. I don't see how this is a good ploy for Klay Thompson in terms of garnering any support and or creating any leverage as far as his negotiations with the Golden State Warriors going forward.
No, but I also, like, would I have done this? No, that's not really who I am. I don't know if it sounds like that's not who you are, Dan, even though you're not on social media at all.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I forget the name of my account, but I'm on there. I'm on there, man.
You're on IG. You just don't remember your login.
I didn't actually build it, but there's pictures of me.
I'll help you reset your password. How about that? Yeah, well, and you're also on Twitter, technically. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah, like Dan Devone has a Twitter page.
Okay.
I can bring it up at the break. How about that? We'll get into who you don't follow during our commercial break. No, but I do think it's also
wait, I turned you on to...
what do you mean?
I turned you on to the former Giant pitcher. Johnny Cueto. Remember? Johnny Cueto's IG page.
That's right. That's the one guy that Dan Devone has been locked into because of all of his off-season workouts. By the way.
And the dude's always cooking or working out, right?
On a tangent, Johnny Cueto might have one of the funniest IG accounts of all time.
Yeah.
Number one, because of his workouts. The guy works out insanely hard even still. I think he signed a contract with somebody recently. But the other part is, too, he loves horses. There are so many horses on his IG, and there is one post from a long time ago. I don't know if it's still there, but he took a picture of a recently deceased member of his stable. It was a dead horse, and it was like he wrote the obituary on his IG post, and the picture was of a horse with these lifeless eyes just laying on the ground. And it was one of the most, I don't know if it was insensitive. I don't know if it was comedic. I don't know if it was loving. I don't know if it was all of those things. It was just an unbelievable Instagram post thrown up by Johnny Cueto. So you're right. Thank you, Dan. You did turn me on to that.
He just looks like he's having fun in life. When I see that guy, I'm like, he's either working out or he's eating and doing salsa somewhere every night of the week. Go ahead. I digress. What were you talking about?
No. I was actually reading the Xfinity Mobile text line. This is from Lori in Phoenix. I agree with Dan here. Klay is too old to act this way. He's an accomplished player, struggling to figure out what he wants. He's coming off as selfish. I mean, I think that there's definitely a lot of that reaction. I don't know about the selfish part, but yeah, it does feel beneath him or beneath anybody that has accomplished as much as he has to use a juvenile tactic to try and get his point across, which I also think involves sending a message to other teams. It's not just about the shot to the Warriors or perceived shot to Golden State or to the fans or whatever. I think it's also to emit this idea that I'm officially a free agent. I'm officially available for everyone. And I'm going to be taking each and every call possible to figure out what my future holds in store.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because I think that part of all of this is that, I mean, look at Danny Hurley. Yeah, whether that was a leverage move or not, he goes back, obviously, to Connecticut, and they're already drafting up a new contract.
Do you think Woj got a cut of that?
That's hilarious.
Dude, that might be one of the greatest cons ever pulled off by a sports-related journalist or a group.
Con in what way?
Dude, he got Dan Hurley a new deal at UConn.
Because he's the one.
He essentially got him a new deal.
Are you
talking about leverage?
You're intimating that he let the Lakers know that Dan Hurley's available.
No. He pushed Dan Hurley onto the Lakers.
Well, no, I heard it was Woj. Either the Lakers reached out to Woj or there was a conversation where they said he intimated, you need to check out Danny Hurley.
And I don't think it was a coincidence that was right after Gino Auriemma got a new 5-year deal from UConn. And Dan Hurley had just won 2 back-to-back, national championships and probably felt like he was underpaid. And then they're very close. I think, and this is something that I didn't realize until recently.
Well, he wrote the biography on his father.
On the school, or the high school.
St. Anthony's.
Yeah, St. Anthony's, right?
Yep. Shout out Jersey City.
There you go. Jersey Kid.
Did I tell you my old man went to St. Benedict's in Newark?
Oh, no kidding.
Yes.
Well, fun fact, I went to St. Peter's College for a little bit, and then I was actually we had to read the book that Woj wrote about the miracle at St. Anthony's, and I got to see Bobby Hurley do a Q&A with Woj. And at that time, it was like 2009, didn't even know who Woj was. Like, he wasn't Woj yet.
Woj and I came up together.
Are you kidding me?
No joke.
Oh, yeah, in Fresno, right?
Yeah, he was at the Fresno Bee.
See, Devone has been everywhere. I swear to God. This man has lived 15 lives in one.
If you saw Woj at a game and say, Dan Devone, he'll have good things to say. We were both, I was starting out. He would already been, I want to say, with a paper out on the East Coast, a smaller paper. And I remember when he was coming to the Fresno Bee, everybody's, the Fresno Bee's getting this columnist who's coming from the East Coast. And he went after Jim Sweeney.
Who's that?
Anybody knows anything about Fresno State football, Sweeney was like Tom Landry. He was like Bill Walsh. He was a god, right? You don't say anything cross or anything wrong about Sweeney. And the first thing that Woj did is he went right after him, saying like, yeah, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. The game's passed him by, and he needs to get out of town. Oh, my goodness. That whole area from Tulare to Dos Palos was upside down with this Woj. And I'll never forget, I was with Woj out of practice, and we were standing there, and Sweeney drove by in his little fish hat in a golf cart and just stopped and said, get in here, young man, pointing not to me, but to Woj. And they drove off in this golf cart off to the sunset. And I remember turning to my cameraman, I'm like, God, man, we may never see him again. Like, that was...
well, back then he was Adrian, right? He wasn't Woj.
No, he's Adrian Wojnarowski. And you may know this name, I think it's David Katz, did college basketball. What's Katz's first name?
Fred?
No, Katz. Who am I thinking of? Andy Katz. Andy Katz?
Katz?
Yeah, he was synonymous with college basketball. He was like he was sort of Woj of college basketball for a good
Andy
decade.
Katz, yeah.
Andy
No,
Katz.
you're right.
Yeah. Both of them were at the Fresno Bee, and they were like best friends together. And so all three of us used to hang out. We literally were there for 2 years at the exact same time. I left before them. But anyways, Woj is very, very competitive. So when you think about the Shams,
I can see it.
Woj thing, Woj is not one of those guys. He may say publicly, like, well, listen, there's enough pie for all of us to go for everybody to eat off of. But he's either in the intimacy of his friends or family or in front of a mirror, he's like, screw that guy, man. The hell with him. I want to beat him at every breaking news. Like, this is my world. Get the hell off my block. I'm telling you, man, that's the way this dude, he lives. Anyways.
Dan Devone is on 95.7, the game.
He used to go on my show.
That's my Woj.
He was terrible on my show, man, but he's gotten so much better.
Greenie. Dude, so...
By the way, there's a Grant Cohn show.
No, he's incredible.
Yeah, no.
Oh, no. What was I going to say? No. But actually, from the competitive standpoint, I do think with the Hurley story, that is where he has, in a way, I think, elevated himself. Because he literally just showed the entire sports world how much power he actually has. He just got a college coach a new deal. And he got it pretty much out of thin air.
But how much of that, and the reason why I said the competitiveness, how much of that was Woj saying, listen, man, you just broke this story. Shams broke the J.J. Redick story.
Yeah.
So how much was that of Woj saying, Danny, let's get out to L.A. Let me break the story. This Shams guy is getting over on one of the most historic franchises, and he's got J.J. Redick going there. Like, how much of that do you think, again, getting back to his competitive nature, if you're to believe in conspiracy theories, that Danny Hurley and Woj were sort of on the same page with Danny Hurley never seriously considering taking the job.
Well, and so we began this conversation about the scrubbing of social media, but I do think that the Woj story indicates how much power social media can have. I mean, that's why people are talking about Klay Thompson, and I think that's why people are fascinated with the Hurley stories, because Woj looked at Shams and the J.J. Redick thing, which still could come to fruition, and Shams could end up, quote-unquote, winning. But I do think...
it's a done deal.
Well, what?
Yeah. Well, it's not official, but Redick's going to the Lakers.
Dude, is that from Adrian Wojnarowski? Dan Devone? Is it?
No, that's from Dan Devone.
No. But I do think...
Mr. 100%.
Part of it is doing your boy a solid, or the family of the Hurleys a solid, and part of it is also... Yeah, okay, so you think that you have this sort of clout, Shams. You think you have this sort of power. Well, let me go show you what actually this realm is all about.
Right.
I can get someone paid. I'm not just breaking news. I can impact careers. So you better watch out.
Yeah. Getting back to Klay Thompson, though, in all of this.
A hell of a segue.
Where are people at when it comes to Klay Thompson? I just think that it's not a big deal at the end of the day. I'm with you. But just in the here and now, the fact that we're going to talk about this for the next couple of hours, come on, go high road, Klay. And I do want to get back to, I do believe that there's a connective tissue to the likes of him and a Kevin Durant and Aaron Rodgers, all filthy, filthy, wealthy men who are all single. Like, find something else in your life that you can sort of compartmentalize and put basketball and negotiating a contract in its proper perspective.
What are you trying to say about us single folk, Dan?
Well, what about me? And so Listen, I'm the last guy.
Well, you're more secure. I mean, you knew Woj back in Fresno before he became Woj when he was Adrian. You knew this guy Katz, who I just found out about 2 minutes ago. You've sat down with A-Rod and Ken Griffey.
I had a guy.
You were at MetLife Stadium in front of 100,000 people.
Dan Devone.
Coming up at 10:30 is story time with Dan Devone.
My cameraman actually stole Adrian Wojnarowski's jacket. My cameraman happened to be one of the most unsmart people. I don't know how this guy graduated high school, but literally,
I hope he's listening.
He was just like, Woj came running out to the parking lot and said, Dan, that dude just stole my jacket. I'm like, no, he's not going to do that. He's wearing it. And I go to this guy was like 6'6", and I'll never forget. I'm like, dude, you just took Woj's jacket from the bar. What are you doing? He's like, oh, this is Woj's? And I'm like, well, it's not yours. Anyways, that story just jumped in my mind. All right, we continue. A little bit more about the Golden State Warriors. I didn't know
you worked with Andre the Giant.
I do want to work in. Now, that would be Big Chick. Where's Big Chick, by the way?
He's listening.
Right.
Down to the marina.
Is he in the marina?
Yes.
See, he's a big... That
he doesn't strike me as a marina cat.
He continues to grow bigger than life in my world.
That's how you know he's not single, as he lives in the marina.
You may as well walk around with a placard saying, I'm for sale. All right. When we continue here on 95.7 The Game, your thoughts on Klay Thompson. Do you think he'll come back to the Golden State Warriors? And I do want to role play, OnlyFans. I do want to role play.
Oh, my God.
Evan Giddings,
just get out.
I want you to be Klay Thompson. I will be Dunleavy or Lacob, and you just tell me exactly what it is that you want. And let's be realistic, and I'll counter the offer.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll be back right after this on 95.7 The Game.
Father's Day is this Sunday, so now's the time to save on the perfect gift at Macy's Father's Day sale. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take 25%.
Now back to 95.7 The Game.
Evan Giddings, Jersey Ken, Dan Devone. I'm seeing the 510 because I went off talking about myself again, which is inevitable if you give me the driver's seat in the show. So the 510 said, where's the Grant Cohn drop? Who the hell is Dan Devone? So that goes back to...
Yeah, what is that?
Well, I did... I did an MPF list, and it wasn't me. It was the most punchable faces.
Oh.
And so Skip Bayless was at the top of the list.
Sure.
And so Grant Cohn came in at like an honorable mention number 4 on the most punchable faces. I didn't create this. This is up to the fans.
Yeah, you're not on social media,
So, and somebody apparently he has a YouTube show, Grant Cohn, and somebody called in and said, hey,
yes, he has a YouTube show.
You were voted the most punchable face on Dan Devone's show. And so Grant Cohn infamously said, who the hell is Dan Devone? Which became a famous drop every time I start talking about myself. That Grant Cohn puts me back down to planet Earth.
Well, for those who do listen loyally every single Saturday, you have found out that Dan Devone is not just a person. He's an entity. He is in some cases omnipotent, depending on which situation we happen to dive into. Today, it's social media scrubbing. Tomorrow, it could be Italian food. The next day, it could be neighborhoods in the city. It also could be somewhere on the East Coast, because I feel like we had an East Coast segment with Jersey Ken just in our last segment for about 3 minutes there, and I was completely lost because you guys were on something, I don't know, between New York City and New Jersey. I just wasn't sure where it was going.
So now who I want to be is Mike Dunleavy, or do you want me to be Joe Lacob? Do you want to be on top? Going back to our role playing.
Cut that.
Okay, who do you want to be? I'll be Joe Lacob.
Phrasing. Yes. Yeah. Be whoever you want to be, Dan. Just do not say that again.
Okay, let's start that over. I'm Joe Lacob.
Yep. Yes, you are.
I'm in a tank. No. All right. So I'm Joe Lacob, suit and tie.
Cut the check.
All right. Hey, Clay, how's the off season? How you doing? What's going on?
I'm all right, man.
All right, so talk to me.
Why?
What is the contract? What is it that you want? And let's have that as sort of a starting point, and then we can go from there. How many years? How much money, Clay? And we love you.
I want Draymond Green's deal. 4 years, $100 million.
Okay, Clay. Do we need to drug test you before you come into these meetings?
Oh, I'm sorry. 3 years and a player option, each for 25.
Okay, well, Clay, you are no longer the same player that you once were.
Why is that unfair?
And Draymond Green, just to be very sort of blunt about all of this, is giving me more of an impact defensively and winning on this basketball team than you currently are.
He was also suspended for 25 more games than I was last year.
Okay, actually, now you're crushing me because I don't know what the hell to say to that. It brings up a good point, but Klay Thompson is not getting what's.
Last I checked, I didn't hit a teammate.
Okay, let's role play something else. Destroyed.
No, I mean seriously though, like I think that is in a way.
What are his numbers exactly?
Who?
Draymond.
He last offseason he got 4 years for $100 million, or 3 years for 75, and then I think a player option for 25. So essentially 4 for 100. And there was a report that he actually drove to Joe Lacob's house, which is why I think this role play is actually not out of the realm of possibility to actually happening. Is Draymond drove to Joe Lacob's house, and they had a conversation about what the future of Draymond Green was going to be in Golden State. And I'm not sure if they decided then and there that was the number. There's still some back and forths, but ended up getting 4 for 100. The interesting part to me, though, is Dan, is after Klay Thompson was coming off of last season, not this most recent one, but the year before, in which he led the league in threes. Yep. The first offer from the Warriors for an extension was 2 for 48.
Okay,
which at the time felt low, but right now might to you feel like it's on the high end. Like $24 million per year is probably on the high end for a lot of people of what they believe Klay Thompson's worth.
Currently.
Yeah, currently, I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you're right. This offer was last offseason, coming off of what was statistically, wasn't he one of the, if not the most effective in terms of efficiency, 3-point shooter?
Well, so in 2022-23, he shot 41% on 11 attempts per game. So he led the league in threes. And last season, he dipped a little bit.
But he was still amongst the top 5.
No. He was sub 40%. He shot 38.7% from 3-point range, which in the league average I think was either 36 or 37.
But
so he was a slightly above average 3-point shooter.
Right. Well,
I think he was top 5 in terms of total makes.
Yeah, I think that if I'm Joe Lacob, I can't offer you the years and I can't offer you the money just based on the trajectory of where you're at in your career. And you can parse it out and go back and forth with Draymond Green. And I think that Joe Lacob, if he was to be thoroughly honest, could admit as much that we're even reconsidering the next 2 years on Draymond Green. Because you know what this all gets back to, and you know where I'm going to go with this. This is all about age.
Yeah.
And he's going to be 35 years of age. And that's just where we live. And that last taste in my mouth against Sacramento, where not only did you forget about not scoring, okay? That's obvious, and certainly that's not something we can casually overlook, but defensively, I'll never forget Keegan Murray just hunting him out with switches like, where's Klay Thompson? And same with Harrison Barnes. Like, give me Klay Thompson on his switch because he can't stay in front of me. He can't stay in front of anybody anymore. He's no longer a two-way player, and he's almost a liability because you know what he's become in the latter part of his career? He is a feast or famine that if he's in a groove, you can ride him still. Like if he's got it going for a quarter and a half, go ahead and feed the beast, right? And he can still be Klay Thompson. But then there are nights when he's not that guy. And that's who he is. And that's what a bench player is. That's going back to Jamal Crawford, going way back to the microwave and Vinnie Johnson, that either you got it or you don't have it. But that is the pure definition of a role player, where there is no happy medium in his game any longer. That it's either he's on or he's off. And you'll know within the first 5 minutes.
And I think that's why I would prefer him to come off the bench next season, is because when you have those famine games, they don't hurt you as much.
Exactly. You can send him back down and pull in somebody else.
Exactly. And if he's feasting, well, then you can just kind of ride him. Similar to how, I forget which home game it was, not the one they blew a 16-point lead with 8 minutes left, but against Denver on a Sunday, I think it was, Klay Thompson like 25 points in the first half, and they were in that game. And then it didn't scored very few points in the second half, but he was coming off the bench. And so he wasn't the reason in my mind that they lost the game. In fact, he was the reason why they were in the game. That's how I would prefer to view and use Klay Thompson. But then the question becomes, Dan, well, if you're not a starter, how can I justify paying you $25 million to not start?
Which is where we live.
And that's why I think the number matters to a lot of people. But if money weren't an issue, would you pay Klay? Because I also think some of it is, all right, how can we realistically fit you into the cap that we're trying to get beneath? And maybe they want to use Chris Paul's contract to make a trade to acquire a bigger name player or a star or whoever. But that also means that, Klay, there's not as much of the pie left for you because we've been paying an exorbitant amount of money and we can't afford to do that and potentially not make the playoffs like we did last year because that's just not a smart investment.
What the Warriors have to do collectively is stop paying guys for what they once did and paying players for what they potentially can do. In other words, which is why you don't want Jimmy Butler, which is why you don't want Kevin Durant. You are acquiring and or paying for guys for what it is that they did in the rearview mirror. You'd rather be in the enviable position of paying Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, the Anthony Edwards, the stars of tomorrow. Like, okay, you're going to break my bank, but at least I know that I'm in a direction where your better years are in front of you. The Golden State Warriors consistently are entertaining, paying players for what it is that they did in yesteryear. And Klay Thompson is one of those. That if you're to look at this exclusively in the here and now, you are a role player that's a liability defensively. And while you can shoot it at times, there isn't even sustainability or consistency that you're going to score throughout the entire game. Like, your hot streaks usually stop after a quarter or two. You don't even keep that through 4 quarters, let alone 2 or 3 games in a row. This is who you are. Well, it doesn't mean that you're a scrub or you're no longer can contribute to a basketball team. You can, but it's much more limited than where you once were. And so with all that being taken into account, this is what you're worth, which is about 16 to 18, maybe I'll bump it to $20 million. But even at that, I don't want anything to do with Klay because the direction of this team has to get younger. The only guy that gets a pass is Steph Curry. And even Steph Curry, at soon to be 37 years of age, is no longer the same player. And you have to come to that realization that he can't carry this mantle by himself. That ideally you would have Steph sharing that load with somebody else, whoever that is, and then have young supporting players. But this is an old basketball team. And as a result, hard decisions have to be made. I think Kevon Looney's out the door, which is going to be the first indicator. Hey, listen, the Warriors aren't playing around. They're going in another direction. And I think the next is Klay. This is where we're at. All right. We'll take you back, but it's going to be at a much reduced rate simply because this is where you're at in your career. This is not 2018. You're not 28 or 29 anymore. I do not want to hear about you scoring 37 and a quarter. It's not what you do anymore.
No, and I think the fact that there's a lot of these anniversaries or these highlights that keep populating on my social media timeline, because I still do follow the Golden State Warriors, unlike Klay Thompson, is just an indication that we're no longer there anymore. Like when you consistently talk about the past or you consistently feature things that have happened, it's because there's nothing presently captivating or compelling enough about that particular player. And I think, unfortunately, that's kind of where Klay is at for me. But I also feel like, well, let me ask you this, because I think it's fascinating. So, you don't want Jimmy Butler, you don't want Kevin Durant, just the middle-aged superstar, so to speak, or the aging superstar. You don't want to acquire any more of them. Drew Holiday's 34.
Is he that old?
Drew Holiday is 34 years old. He still looks like he's got something left. I think the Boston Celtics paid him because they think he has a lot left in the tank. He's still playing 38 minutes a night in the postseason for a team that's about to win the NBA Finals. So I don't think it's out of the question for a player at that age to still be productive.
No, you're right.
But Klay Thompson's not going in that direction, or he's not even staying in the same place. Again, what would concern me about Klay from a starting standpoint is that he becomes less efficient the more that he's used, the more that he plays. And while it is an achievement for him coming off of those two catastrophic injuries to have played over 150 games in the last two seasons, and he's started 130 of them, that is an achievement. But you're right, Dan. It can't be a lifetime achievement contract.
Yeah.
That you cannot pay Klay Thompson like it's a lifetime achievement award. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I know that we want to hand out trophies and we want to present praise to these guys for what they've done. But at some point, that anchor of the past, I think, is preventing the Warriors from getting into their future.
The reason why I don't want Klay Thompson if I'm Dunleavy and I have no interest in re-signing him, it's not an indictment on him as a player, because I know he can still fill it up from time to time, as I just mentioned. It's just it's because of the dynamic of my current team. Now, if I'm Orlando and I'm the GM, it makes sense. And if I have money, yes, I'll bring him in. The one thing Orlando can't do is shoot from the outside. And you have such a young basketball team that Klay Thompson could be a fit because he's like your elder statesman. The problem with the Golden State Warriors and why I don't want Klay Thompson coming back is because everybody's old. Draymond, soon to be 35. Klay, soon to be 35. And then your best player is going to be 37 years of age. I reiterate this every time we talk about the Golden State Warriors. It has never been done. It is in the history of this league, there is not a relevant team of superstars in their mid-30s that won squat. And the Warriors are not going to be the first. All right? So you have to come to grips that this is an old basketball team that needs to get younger, and Klay Thompson has got to go. If we were a young team and I'm Orlando, that's a completely different scenario. But the Golden State Warriors are this aging team. Nobody has won an NBA title. I think the oldest team, I looked this up, might have been like the Dallas Mavericks and Dirk Nowitzki, but that was like an average age of like 31. No, but your best players are never 35, and 37. It doesn't happen. And so this idea of like, I think we can rinse one more out of them. Let's bring the gang back together. No, you're just wasting time. What it is you're prolonging the inevitable. And the inevitable is that you have to go young, and you may as well do it sooner rather than later.
I mean, all right. In theory, that's a good idea. But an application, I think there's a reason why teams and franchises don't do that. And again, we talk about it all the time in the Bay Area because Bill Walsh is the famous one who said, you want to move off a guy a year before than a year late. Yeah, that's, again, in theory, that's what you want to do. But it's a whole hell of a lot easier to trade Joe Montana when you got Steve Young waiting right behind him. There's nobody on the Warriors that is waiting in the wings right now, I think, that is going to be able to assume the throne for Klay or for Dre or for Steph. So the question is, are you okay with keeping these three together and trying to just kind of fall into something? I think that is a much more safe bet than blowing this thing up, moving off this guy, moving off that guy, just torching the earth and assuming that, I don't know, some seed is going to bear fruit at the bottom of it all. Like, I think we always want to look ahead and we want the new thing and we want the young thing. But what if it ain't there? Like what if some of these guys don't pan out? What if a couple of draft picks that you have in the future aren't very good? Well, then you're stuck. And I just feel like if you're the Warriors, or if you're Mike Dunleavy, I don't know if it was necessarily his job to restructure this entire thing. But what the worst case scenario for me is you move Klay, I don't know, maybe in a couple of years you get off Dre, Curry does or doesn't finish his career as whatever, and then there's just nothing there. Like there's nothing compelling about this team. I think if Klay Thompson's back next year, they might, they're probably not a title team. I don't think they're a title team no matter what they do this summer. But at least they're still compelling because there's still some sort of emotional attachment for fans to cling to. And it might erode, it might get old, but I think that's better than the alternative, which is you move Klay or you don't re-sign him, insert random two-guard, and that two-guard stinks. And Klay Thompson is somewhere else actually helping a team. I think there's a lot of Warriors fans that are going to support Klay no matter what he does, no matter where he goes. I guess I don't know. They're in a really tough place, Dan, and Klay Thompson. God, I don't know what you do with him.
You don't resign him, is what I would do, and then you make that trade where you trade for a young player. Whoever, I know this is easier said than done, but you make the commitment to getting younger. And yes, no one wants to use the rebuild word, but that's what's going on here. Holding on to Klay and holding on to Draymond is just, you're delaying the process here. And so, yeah, we'd all like to see it, but in terms of being relevant and winning again, you have to identify your next core. You have to identify the stars of tomorrow. At some point, it all comes to an end. And you take your last bow, Klay Thompson, but this is and professional sports has never wavered. It's about winning. You can't have sentimentality get in the way of making these decisions. And Klay Thompson is just not the same player. And as a result, we're not the same team in terms of being able to dominate and get to the postseason. So change is always hard, but someone's got to pull the Band-Aid, and it's got to happen sooner rather than later. I do want to switch gears. We can continue to talk about Klay Thompson. We're here for you, 888-957-9570. But the NBA Finals. And we'll get it, if you want to talk about Dallas and the Celtics, I think it's just boring me, man. Maybe because there's no skin in the game. But I know. No, seriously, I'll put it to you like this. The NBA Finals was just as exhilarating last night as the San Francisco Giants. I'm serious. Pick your poison.
I mean, both of them were just absolute snooze fests.
I'll talk Giants, too. Luciano officially goes down. Officially comes off the IR and is now down in the minor leagues.
I've been waiting to apologize to Devone for about a month on Marco Luciano.
No, but it's funny. I was about to come down I'm not down your road, but I'm about to come on your side of the fence.
Huh. What do you mean?
Well, think about it, because remember what I was saying, that you can't win without a good shortstop. So you mean to tell me that Nick Ahmed and Brett Wisely are going to be your shortstop that's going to take you to a World Series or a playoff berth?
or beating the Los Angeles Angels of I mean, no, seriously, Nick Ahmed should not be the Giant shortstop. Brett Wisely, he's not a shortstop. He's more of a utility guy, second baseman. I mean, he plays everywhere. But yeah, I hope they don't give up on Luciano, because unless you're going to go out and get another guy, I don't know what other alternative you have. But you are right, and I'll give you this, extend the olive branch. Right now, he's not a shortstop. And I think that's why he's in Sacramento.
Yeah, but okay, how's this? You knew that Crawford, I mean, we've known for about 2 years that you were going to have a hole at that shortstop position, because one of the best, I say the greatest shortstop in the history of the franchise, and Brandon Crawford was leaving town. It was over. It was coming to an end. This, with all that forewarning, with all that money coming off the sidelines that you Farhan have, this is the best you can do? I mean, with all the maneuvering, now you're thinking about Bo Bichette? I mean, you had basically 2 off seasons. Now, I know you went after Correa. That's not on you. But you had an entire off season. It's not as though, speaking of Klay Thompson, just moments before you draft James Weissman, in a pickup game, he tears his Achilles, and all of a sudden the season's about to start in a couple of weeks, and you got to find a replacement for Klay Thompson. Brandon Crawford let everybody know that this guy wasn't going to be around with this team. And you had months and months, an entire an entire offseason and free agency negotiating period for you to find his replacement. And this is what you came up with, Ahmed and Wisely?
I think it's because Luciano's not ready yet.
But they didn't even break camp with Luciano. They had to have known that. Luciano was never the starting shortstop on this team.
I think
when they broke camp.
When they broke camp, yes. But when they started camp, I think they wanted him to be, but slowly or quickly realized that he was not going to be ready, which is why they signed Nick Ahmed, and he had a hot spring and just took the job. Like, that's it. Everybody wanted to make it about Luciano, but to me, I think you're right. Like, the ire should be pointed at the front office and the fact that you brought in a dude that was over the hill and kind of on his way out of the major leagues, Nick Ahmed, to compete for a position at shortstop. That means you got nothing there. I mean, you're basically major leaguing it at that position right now. You're just kind of filling holes, stop gaps, and trying to put together some sort of cobbled infield that isn't going to kill you because you have no answer at that position. I think there are some answers to other positions, even though maybe Matos got sent down. He looks like he can be a future center fielder or corner outfielder for you. I wouldn't send him
down either.
Elliot Ramos can play all 3 outfield positions. He looks like he can.
He's your best player.
Right now he is. Yeah, because you got Lamont on the shelf. But that's kind of the issue with the Giants right now, Dan, is they really can't seem to hit. They really can't seem to score runs.
Back to the youngsters, Elliot Ramos, if it wasn't for an injury to Jung-Hoo Lee and Conforto and Austin Slater, he was demoted to the minor leagues. This is a guy that only got an opportunity to play because out of need.
And I think if he hadn't been hitting, for example, if the roles were reversed, that Matos was the one who was hot and Ramos had been slumping at the plate, they would have sent Ramos down.
What about this? What if you were to do a Mookie Betts or a Fernando Tatis? Do you think Luciano could play the outfield? He's got the arm. He's got the athleticism. Think about this now. You put the kids out there, right? Think about an outfield of Matos, Luciano, and Elliot Ramos. Sign me up, baby.
But it's kind of what we're talking about with the Warriors, right? There's too many players at positions, and those players aren't championship caliber anymore, but they're starting caliber. And so you can't really sell me on just a young guy grabbing that spot or taking the spot just to have the spot. Like, I think Conforto needs to play left field. Do I think he's a great player? No. But I've seen him be good. He has a track record. He's a pro. He can hit. He's not great. Yaz. I think Yaz is a fine player. He's a great defensive right fielder. He's a below average hitter. But they don't have anything better right now than him.
I'm trying to think of.
I mean, for crying out loud, like that.
Yeah, but there's no Steph Curry. I mean, who's replacing Yastrzemski? You really have an issue with that, or replacing even Conforto?
With who? With Matos?
With Matos, with
guy hasn't seen a pitch he doesn't want to swing at. Like,
I'm just saying, like, I would make that commitment. I think it's much easier making the commitment to youth and that youth movement with the Giants than it is the Warriors. Because the Warriors, yeah, you can make an argument like, well, Draymond's proven winner, Steph is Steph, and Clay's, they're all synonymous with the titles. Well, what the hell has Austin Slater won?
Well, I won you a ball game a couple nights ago. But no, you're right. Yeah. And actually, as we wrap up here, the Giants are where the Warriors are trying to avoid going. Into the land of the lost. Into the land of the mediocre. That's where they're trying to avoid.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, I want to talk about the NBA Finals. More specifically, forget about, we can, if you want to get into, Luka coming back and the game's being stretched out. Is there pressure now on that of the Boston Celtics? Could this thing go 7? I'm hearing a lot of that. I want to talk about something that is right in your kitchen. How about the new announcers, the new announcing team of one JJ Redick and Doris Burke? Yeah, we're going to go after that.
I got thoughts.
Back after this.
So, what are you reading?
I'm checking out the ratings on the new TVs, and it looks like Samsung, LG,
Dan Devone, he's not just a person. He's an entity. He is in some cases omnipotent.
Do you want to be on top?
Now back to 95.7 The Game.
Oh, that is not right. All right, Evan Giddings is Jersey Ken joining you here on a Saturday. As we talk about Klay Thompson, certainly here for you if you want to kick that around. Klay Thompson, if you just joined us, scrubbed his social media account of all things Golden State Warriors. What does that mean in terms of the negotiations? What does that mean in terms of him coming back and playing for the Warriors? Keep in mind, he is a free agent. Remind me again, Ev, when is the free agent period? Is
July 1st. July 1st. Starts on July 1st officially. Yep. But a lot of the news starts to leak out, I would say, the week before. And then around the July 4th holiday is when kind of everything gets cemented.
So a lot of people are reading between the lines. I personally think it's a weenie move. It's above what Klay. Forget about any young player. If you want to go in that direction, all right, I get it. If you're Kyler Murray and you want your first contract, go ahead and play the game. It's the first negotiating ploy, I guess, in 2024. That's the way you guys handle your business. But if you're Klay Thompson, you're an elder statesman, you're one of the most respected players, one of the greatest to ever do it. You won 4 titles. You're representative of a larger whole. And come on, man. Like, really? That's the move? Be above that. Take the high road, bro. Above the fray.
Would you have preferred that he just came out and said, yeah, I'm done? Like, if that is indeed what it means, would you have preferred just a public statement?
That would be awesome.
But you realize that he can't do that.
No, I know. But so either don't do anything or do that. Or
just take the flamethrower out.
Yeah, just
get on your boat and start sailing south.
Charles Barkley did. I mean, there's no rule. Great.
That's true.
Apples and oranges here. Apples and bowling balls, as I like to say. I mean, but he's not leaving the door open for speculation. I like that. Like, I'm done. By the way, Charles Barkley officially retiring from television.
Do we have that sound, Ken? New Jersey Ken? Yeah, if we could please play Charles Barkley's official announcement about apparently the ending of his television career.
I've talked to all the other networks, but I ain't going nowhere other than TNT. But I have made the decision myself, no matter what happens, next year is going to be my last year on television. I'm going to just retire after 25 years, and I just want to say thank you, and I wanted y'all to hear from me first.
Well, first of all, damn it.
Do you believe him, though?
Yes, I actually do.
All right. It's Charles, though. I mean,
it's the end of his contract. I mean, I still think we'll see and hear from him, but no, like, I don't know. We're not going to get that kind of show ever again. Like, we just aren't. There's no way that you can possibly recreate what they put together over the course of 2 decades. It's just, it's irreplicable. And that's what makes it sad in my mind that I won't be able to see and watch them anymore, is because I've been thoroughly entertained for the majority of my life by those 3 and then 4 people with Shaquille O'Neal coming on the last decade.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think it's all because of Charles Barkley. Although Kenny Smith is a great number 2, if you want to call him. I mean, everybody plays their role perfectly, but it all centers around Barkley.
Barkley's Curry. Yeah, Barkley's the Curry of that show. And then you also got a couple other Hall of Famers. Like, I think Ernie Johnson is the most,
perfect traffic cop.
He isn't talked about like he is the focal point of the show, but he is one of the straws that stirs the drink.
Yeah, he certainly is.
Especially when I watch Lefko fill in for him. My God.
Significant drop-off?
Yes, because he tries to make, and this is one of the many reasons that I love talking to you, Dan, especially about broadcasting, because you get it. You get it.
Which is why a reminder, and of course, you know how this works. Every time we talk about broadcasting and you're in the room, ladies and gentlemen, this guy is going to be a rising star. And if I do know my stuff, well, then believe what it is that I have to say, because it's gospel. And that is Evan Giddings. Say, I knew him when he did Saturday mornings with Dan Devone, because he's on his way to the top like a bullet.
Well, it makes me feel better because you also did identify Woj, too. So you knew him when he was Adrian. You knew he was on his way. No, but seriously, like, the broadcast, or it's my big issue right now with these NBA finals and the broadcasting side of things, is because, I mean, the games aren't very compelling. So in one breath, you're as good as the product is. But in the same point with the studio shows, you have to know, like you're talking about, who the one is. If the show is not centered around you, you have to have some sort of feel of where to get in in where you fit in. Shout out Too Short. So I feel like a lot of people don't really have that feel. And I'm not perfect by any means, but I don't get that. Like Ernie Johnson knows exactly where he fits in that show. It's all about Barkley, and then it's about Shaq, and then it's about Kenny, and then it's about me. I'm not the center of attention, and I feel like a lot of people, when I listen to games, try and make it about them, and it's not.
What is the one thing I always tell you? If I could impart, I'm not in any position to give any sort of advice, but my opinion, if you're a young broadcaster, it's the most difficult thing to sort of learn and apply. Less is more. Less is more. You don't have to dominate everything. All right, we'll get back. I want to continue the conversation about the broadcasting team currently that's doing the NBA Finals, but let's get back to Warriors talk. Magic's hanging out in Dallas. Magic, welcome to the show on a Saturday. What do you have?
What's up, Magic?
What's going on, fellas? Happy to talk to you again. It's been a little while. I do want to touch on that broadcasting thing too, because I heard a little bit of that, and I'm not a big fan of JJ Redick in that seat. I think what Evan's talking about and him talking over, I don't think that's a great fit. It's not that he's a bad broadcaster. I just don't know if he fits with that crew. Love Doris Burke, man. I don't know why. Something about the way that she calls a game. She's knowledgeable. She knows, she knows the ins and outs of these players because she has a lot of access. So I love her on the broadcast. But anyway, about Klay, it's going to be hard to let him go, but because he's a big part of the big three, and it makes it harder that Draymond is still here and he's the one that's leaving. But that's just kind of how timing works.
And like magic, he's gone.
Yeah, so he was saying that he likes the broad. Well, we'll let him. If you want to call back, Magic, we're here for you. And just you can continue your thought on Klay Thompson. But just getting back to what it is that you said about the broadcast. This is their worst nightmare of what took place last night. I'm talking about ABC and the network. Because if it's a blowout and you got to sugar that thing for a good, what was it, about a good hour and a half maybe left in the broadcast when that thing was done?
Whenever Kay...
Midway in the third?
Whenever New Jersey Ken showed up to the cafeteria, it was about the time the game was over. And we were there for quite some time.
I'd say an hour.
Yeah.
And so if you got garbage time for an hour and you have to provide a reason as to why people should listen, first of all, everybody, I mean, not everybody, but there's going to be a good portion that's just going to tune out. It's like, okay, I'll rejoin this thing when it gets to Boston for game 6. Or game 5, rather.
Yeah.
But this is why Jeff Van Gundy, a bit underrated, was good. Because Jeff Van Gundy was a little quirky. Jeff Van Gundy could make things somewhat entertaining because he had a strong sense of humor. He was self-deprecating. He was insightful for things that were outside of basketball, whether that was a player, whether that was fans, whether that was his take on something that's going on as far as referees or the state of basketball, or maybe the state, because he's just his opinion on whatever that may not be relevant to the game itself. And that's an art. And so when you have a blowout like that, what the hell is Doris Burke going to tell you that's going to be somewhat entertaining? And or JJ Redick. They're they're good, but they're forgettable. It's not as though we talk about Charles Barkley like, Charles Barkley walks into the room and it's must-see TV, or I'm turning over to TNT to see Barkley. The idea that I'm going to watch the game because I want to hear what it is that JJ Redick is going to tell me, and or Doris Burke, who I know is good, they're not really going to tell you something you didn't already know. But last night I thought it really sort of drove home and sort of really crystallized the level of talent that was Jeff Van Gundy, who could actually make that thing somewhat entertaining, even though the game in hand had been decided, pretty much midway through the second quarter.
Well, and something that I feel like I'm watching the NBA Finals with an ear for what would have Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson said in that spot. For example, there was a play in game 2, I think it was, and Green goes up for the Mavericks and he gets fouled at the end of a half on a 3-point shot by Kristaps Porzingis. And JJ Redick says something along the lines of, that was a really smart play by insert Mavericks player. In my mind, I'm waiting for Jeff Van Gundy to say, No, it wasn't.
Exactly.
It was a stupid play by Porzingis. Quit giving a guy credit for someone else making a mistake. Now, he would say it in a more affable tone, and he would say it in a way that's funny and joking, but it was serious because he would call it like it is. I don't get the feeling, and right, it's their first time together, working together in the NBA Finals. You're probably not trying to step on any toes, but my biggest issue, because I think individually, Doris Burke and JJ Redick are good at what they do. I think JJ Redick I really enjoy his podcast. I think he's knowledgeable. Not the one with LeBron, but the one, the old man of the three. I think he does really insightful interviews. He has access that no one else can get. He brings a player perspective that's very unique. He and Doris are too similar. They're too similar with how they talk about the game, the praise, the unnecessary praise that they heap upon the most basic parts of basketball. And it just feels a little forced, and it feels not phony, but kind of like fake praise.
You have two straight men.
Last night was an atrocity of your Boston. You got beat by 38 points in a finals game. That is the third worst margin of defeat ever in an NBA Finals game. For a team that was on the verge of I'm not saying that they had to sweep, but they came out last night and they were flat. They were gutless last night because they knew that the series was won. And that's not how I want to see champs act. They were down 48 points in an NBA Finals game. And that's a team that won 64 games, that has the greatest offensive rating of all time, that had a chance to do something historic by going 16-2 in the postseason, and they came out flat. They're probably going to win Game 5 at home, and who knows, maybe they wanted to, but that was a lackadaisical effort. That was not a fun product to put forth, and as a viewer, I felt like the Celtics shouldn't have even showed up for the game. That's the kind of analysis I feel like we would have heard from someone like Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, who have been in those situations, who understand what is actually happening in front of them, and whether it's because of experience or because of chemistry, they're not afraid to call it like it is. And I just don't feel like I'm getting enough of that from this particular
I'm going to leave that alone. Well said. Drop the mic, young fella. All right, let's continue and give Magic in Dallas another opportunity. You want to talk about Klay Thompson. Magic, how are you, buddy? Did you get into an area where you can hear and, more importantly, talk to us?
Yes, apparently I was in a bad spot, so I apologize. But I'll make it quick about Klay. Basically, what I'm saying is it's going to be painful to let him leave, especially because Draymond is still here, and you feel like he would be the one out of the big three with Steph that would stay, and Draymond would be out of here. But it's going to have to be painful, and they may not be great next year. And really, we only have 2-3 years left, maybe, of Steph being great. But I think this is going to have to turn into something like the Spurs did when Tim Duncan and
Dallas is a tough spot.
Yeah, Dallas, try us again.
Another magic trick.
Yeah. Dallas, just keep calling us every 5 minutes. We'll get it out of you.
No, but I think the point is taken, though. You know, he wants to have the Warriors evolve. And I think, again, in theory, I think that's exactly what they should do. They have to evolve. And they have to do it while also trying to, maximize Steph, or I think he's still a great player, and how do you remain competitive with him on the team? But it's a lot easier said than done. And that's why I think they're in some trouble this summer, is because there's not many avenues for them to evolve while also remaining competitive. I think it does feel like, to me, Dan, that you're right, that either you have to remain old, which might keep you in the same place, or you have to kind of just lean into your younger players and hope that they're good enough to kind of fill that void that would inevitably be left by somebody like Klay Thompson.
Well, I think that when I say that they need to go young, I'm not saying that all of a sudden it's Podziemski at the 2 guard, Trayce Jackson-Davis your starting center, and Kuminga your forward, because I don't know that Podziemski and Trayce Jackson-Davis have been in the league long enough, nor have we seen a large enough sample size to really know who they are as far as their NBA productivity in their careers, and or labeling these guys. They could be role players. But I do know that you have to find out. And if you're thinking about, here's the other thing that I think is going to happen this offseason. I think there's going to be a significant trade, and I think Jonathan Kuminga is gone. And I do think that that's going to bring back that younger number 2 that has been so coveted. Who it is, I have no idea. But
he is a young number 2, though. Kuminga.
Yeah, but I think that
by process of elimination.
There's too many holes in his game that, at least the way the Warriors perceive things, that they need somebody who's not as much of a project at this point, and as much growth as we've seen out of Jonathan Kuminga this past year. I think that the Warriors need a level of security. Like, I know that this guy is going to give me 25 and 10. That I know that this veteran or this player who's still in his 20s or late 20s is going to, because he's established as a star in this league. Jonathan Kuminga is still sort of hit or miss. I think the Warriors would tell you as much. And that's why I think that while he's so young and there's so much talent, that he is your one asset. And so I think that the Warriors will trade him to sort of restructure this team and to get younger and to find that co-star or the number 2 to that of Steph Curry. But I do think that the younger players, there's still going to be a role for them, and that's got to be your focus. Whoever this next player is, and then staying young with the Podziemskis and making trades and moves so that the average age on this team is not like that of the Sequoias. Shout out the retirement community on Laguna and Post, but you're
That's
getting
prime real estate right
getting
there.
into an area where you're not only getting younger, and you're creating a future for the team where it's not all about the here and now. I think part of Steph Curry is resigned to the fact that there's a good chance that this isn't going to happen. A lot of people think that, hey, listen, you got to do this for Steph. He's running out of time. He's got to win another title.
A big move, you mean?
No, well, I'm just talking about Steph Curry as far as his outlook with the Warriors and playing basketball going forward. I think he, much like LeBron, he's not going anywhere. He's not leaving the Bay Area. This is where his kids are from. This is where he recognizes, he and Iguodala, how fertile Silicon Valley is and all the money and entrepreneurial things that they're doing. And just like LeBron is not leaving L.A., right? That's where his family is ensconced in L.A. and Brentwood. And so I think part of LeBron recognizes that this is a long shot that I actually won another title at my age, right? Maybe I'll squeeze one out, even though I'm everybody perceives me as work and I go to win a title. I'm just not leaving the area, and there's a good chance that I'm not going to win here. And I think to a certain degree, Steph is the same way. Although he'll never admit it publicly, and maybe a lot of people will never believe what it is that I'm having to say, but I think that Steph has come to the realization as he gets older that, well, I hope I win a title with the Golden State Warriors, but the chances are unlikely. It doesn't mean I'm going to demand a trade. It doesn't mean that I'm going to pout. It just means I'm going to ride this thing to the sunset with the Golden State Warriors, because quality of life and living here has trumped all of that as I get older. As much as I want to win a title, my kids, I'm not uprooting them and moving them across the country. This is where I'm going to be. But I'm with the Warriors, win or lose. So this idea that we got to win for Steph, or he's not going to resign, or he's not going to be happy, true to a certain degree, but I also think that you have to entertain the fact that Steph ain't going anywhere, and he's a Bay Area guy for the remainder of his career.
I don't think he's going anywhere either. And in fact, he actually just bought a building in the dog patch for his new Curry Enterprise. I forget what the name of his company is. But anyways, yeah, no, he is entrenched in the Bay Area. But I also don't want people to take his kindness for weakness. Like, the fact that Curry is such a level-headed dude, and he's very kind, and he's charitable, and yes, but he's still an insane competitor. Now, I don't think that Curry would ask for a trade or I think he wants to be here. And it's one of the reasons why I think Klay Thompson should do everything in his power to stay, because I think this is the best place for Klay Thompson. I think it's also the best place for Draymond Green. I think it's the best place for those three to ideally ride in and ride out together. The Warriors are just trying to figure out how competitive they can be while prioritizing that. Like, I don't know if Klay Thompson is the biggest priority for them this offseason, even though they've made claims that he is. I just think that, right now, Dan, the Warriors are, well, let me run this by you, because I actually think it's interesting. Someone like Jonathan Kuminga, who is contract extension eligible this summer, he profiles as the guy that should scrub his social media. Like, if he really wants, the bag, if he wants the Jordan Poole bag, so to speak, he's the one that should be scrubbing his social media. and yet Klay Thompson is the one doing it. He's the guy that we're talking about today. I just think it's interesting that a lot of people will scrub their social media, and the younger person does, the Gen Zer, the person who's looking for his first bag. And Jonathan Kuminga has not made a single stink this summer yet about his future with the team, when he is the one that's eligible to make more money than Klay Thompson. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I'm a Jonathan Kuminga fan of this guy. I think that for whatever reason, I thought it was really poignant on what it is that the Warriors had to say post-mortem after the season, on their exit interviews, essentially, with Steph Curry along with Dunleavy. It was almost as if it was rehearsed, that while they said we're going to do everything within our power to bring back Klay Thompson, Draymond Green isn't going anywhere. And then when it came to Jonathan Kuminga, the door was slightly ajar. That, yes, we like Jonathan Kuminga. However, there are things that he needs to work on. So I'm basing that exclusively that I think that the Warriors recognize that this huge asset is going to be the trade chip that's going to bring back that number 2 to Steph Curry. Do they think they should do it? Hell, I don't know. I think that guy's future, it's just scary how good this guy can be.
Well, there is someone we could talk to at 11:30 because Dan Dibley, of course, co-host of Willard and Dibs, is going to be joining us live from Fremont Bank, where they're celebrating 60 years. So Dan Dibley will be live from there, calling in about 5 or 6 minutes on the other side. So I know that they had the news break about Klay Thompson scrubbing his social media on the show yesterday. I'm curious to hear what his thoughts are, as well as some of the takes he has on these various subjects, because there is a lot that's going to start coming to the surface with Golden State, and it feels like it's taken a while. But Dan, I don't know if it's because of my disinterest in anything really beyond the second round in the NBA playoffs. And I would say the Denver-Minnesota series was the series that grabbed me as a fan, or as an average fan, without any skin in the game. The finals haven't really done it. So everything right now after the finals ends is probably tomorrow, or what do they play on Monday? I forget the schedule, honestly. It hasn't been that important to me. But after that, then everything comes to the fore for Golden State with their decisions to make. Is it a trade for Kuminga? Is it re-signing or letting Klay walk? Is it extending Jonathan Kuminga? What is the first thing that they can do? I'm curious to see what Dan Dibley thinks about that on the other side.
Where's Dibley?
At Fremont Bank.
Okay.
In Fremont.
So why am I learning this now that he's joining the show?
New Jersey Ken, would you care to pop the mic and reveal to Dan why this is the first time he's heard about it?
Because I don't know.
That's the answer, because. No.
You'd be a hell of a trial attorney there, Jersey Ken. No, let's hear what Dibbs has got to say. He's the guy who broke this news. I'm curious to.
Well, he didn't break the news, but he reacted to it when it broke. He did text me though. He said, "quote I got takes." So it's not just going to be about
now
plugging.
You just lost me. I'm running this thing today. Do I got to put Dibbs on?
Actually, yes.
Okay.
yes, we do.
He does have some
live from Fremont Bank. One of our very valued partners here at 95.7 The Game.
Yes. We want to hear from Dibbs from Fremont Bank. He's coming up straight ahead. He's going to give his thoughts on Klay Thompson scrubbing his account. We'll also ask Dibbs if he's ever scrubbed his account or been unfollowed or unfollowed anybody. That is a riveting tease, my man.
Yes, it is, Dan.
We'll do that and much more. It's Dan Dibley from Willard and Dibbs. That and much more. We continue right after this.
Are you curious about who offers the best deals on top-rated Samsung, LG, and Sony TVs? The answer is surprising. It's not online, and it's not the warehouse clubs. The best deals on top.
It's not the Hamptons. It's not 2016 and 2017, okay? Obama's not president anymore.
Now back to 95.7 The Game.
Welcome back to the 11:30 hour alongside Evan Giddings and Jersey Ken. It is Dan Devone. We're talking about the Golden State Warriors and more specifically one Klay Thompson who decided to scrub his social media account of all things that represent the Golden State Warriors. And of course, as was his intent and or his agents, we're here to try and pull back the layers, sort of understand what it is that he was trying to get across. And that's why they planted this seed, so that Evan and Dan would sit here and break this thing down. Well done, Klay. Well done. You've taken up 2.5 hours of our day trying to understand through your passive-aggressive nature what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Next time, just come out and say it, man. You'll be all right, okay? Dan Dibley is standing by. We want to go out to Fremont Bank. Full-service banking, no compromises, celebrating their 60th anniversary. That's where we find the star of Willard and Dibs. Primetime. Dibley standing by on a rooftop, apparently in Fremont, California. Dibs, welcome to the show. What's up,
Dibs?
man?
Oh, what's up, guys? Double D, Dan Devone, Evan Giddings. I am so honored to be a part of your show. You guys are killing it, by the way. I was listening to the show on my way down here. I'm at the Fremont Bank headquarters, which is a brand new building at Capitol and Fremont here in downtown Fremont. And by the way, I am on the roof of this building, and it happens to be the tallest building in the city of Fremont. And if I look to my north, slightly to the west, I think I can see the beautiful head of hair that sits atop of Dan Devone.
Well, what's the second tallest building in Fremont? 7-Eleven?
Boy, it's funny you say that because I went by about 4 7-Elevens, none of which is more than one story. But what they're doing down here in Fremont, which, as you well know, Dan, is the fourth most populous city in the Bay Area, down near 250,000 people now. They're developing an entire downtown corridor on Capitol Avenue. And so the Fremont Bank headquarters, 6 stories tall, is going to be really the anchor building on what's going to be over the next 5 to 10 years, a completely revamped downtown Fremont.
Well, that is awesome, Dibs, and I'm sure they really appreciate you not only vocalizing, but also, being there, drawing a lot of eyes to one of our very valuable partners here at 95.7 The Game. But one other thing, of course, we want to run by you is what we've been discussing today, and you said you heard a little bit of the conversation, so I want to bring you into it because I feel like you are more appropriate than any to speak on Klay Thompson and his unfollowing of the Warriors, because the news literally broke on your show yesterday. So, kind of what was your first reaction? And now that you've had a chance to sleep on it, do you feel any different about it? Is it all about nothing or much to do about nothing? Kind of where do you fall on Klay doing this, unfollowing the Warriors?
Well, it's 2 pieces, Evan. The first piece is kind of the old school me, which is like, how can this be news? This is so stupid that somebody making an unfollow and scrubbing an account, like, that can't be a thing. And then I realize in this modern day and age, what you kids do, Evan, you young whippersnappers, this is exactly what you do when you want to communicate. So it's actually a huge thing, and it plays right along with what I've been saying for the better part of 2 or 3 months. I do think that Klay is leaving. I've long thought Klay was leaving. They reportedly offered him 2 years and $48 million back in November. He said no to that. And honestly, guys, I don't think that the offer that they would give him now is going to be any bigger or any longer than what they already did. And I think Klay wants more years. I think he'll get more years. I think he'll get more money. He'll have a chance to play a bigger role in a different team. And so I think this, here in the middle of June, still 2 weeks away from free agency beginning, I think this is the sign that he's decided that the deal that he would want from the Warriors is not going to happen. So, yeah, I think it's a big deal, and I think this signals what's going to happen here in 16 days. He's gone.
Dibs, is that a good or a bad thing for the Golden State Warriors to move forward without Klay Thompson?
It's only good if they can make a big swing and bring in a player who can help them become more relevant than they were this past year. Because, Dan, I was saying this on the show yesterday, if you just bring everybody back from last year without Chris Paul, he's going to be gone, you were a 10 seed. And miss me with that narrative that they were 3 wins away from being a 6 seed. Fine, that might be true, but you're not as good as Denver. Dallas is better than you. Oklahoma City's younger and faster. Minnesota's too tall. So what are we even talking about here? If Klay Thompson leaves, and I think he's going to, you had better do something to replace him. And if that means using Kuminga in a trade, so be it. You got 2 more years of Steph. I don't think that you can be a championship team anyway, but you got to do something to try to replace the good outside shooting that Klay Thompson brings, if nothing else.
Yeah, it is interesting, Dibs, because look, I mean, I feel like the move is one that is both strategic as well as immature. And I think it's funny that a 34 going on 35-year-old is the one kind of scrubbing his social media. I don't know if it's a technological cleanse, a millennial form of meditation. I don't know what it is, but it does feel strange that someone, say, like Jonathan Kuminga, who is in the prototypical position where someone both his age and in his situation due up for his extension eligible this summer, he would be the one, if we're taking the likes of, the Ayuks, the Debos, the guys that are getting their first bag typically use scrubbing social media as a negotiation tactic. Kuminga would profile as the guy to do that, and yet he has not, number one, done that, but number two, hasn't really made much of a peep or a stink about anything regarding his future with Golden State. So, whether it's a trade or not, I just find it fascinating that Klay Thompson's the one that's doing this when there literally is a kid who's 21 years old that profiles as the kind of guy that would.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And I think if Kuminga did it, it would be more of a tactic. But this, to me, is more of a tantrum. And, I've got a 21-month-old, and she likes to watch Coco Melon. And when you turn off Coco Melon, she throws herself on the floor, and she has a tantrum, and then it's over. So if you're a 34-year-old shooting guard and you realize that things aren't really going your way as far as a Warriors contract extension, you don't have any other real way to communicate your frustration other than going to social media and going the scrub route. So I do think that this is more tantrum than tactic, because honestly, there is no tactic for Klay to make. If the Warriors are telling Klay, look, we're going to wait until well into free agency to make a decision on you, and Klay wants to be prioritized, well, then there's nothing Klay can do right now. He has to wait until July 1st to sign a deal elsewhere. And if the Warriors wanted to extend him, they would have had that opportunity to do it back in December, January, February, etc. So right now, Klay's got no other way to express himself other than through this passive-aggressive move.
Dibs, so Ev follows the girls that he's dating. My man, Jersey Ken, follows his wife. My whole point to the kids is, well, listen, once you're together, there's no reason to follow each other. You know what the hell you had for lunch or what you're wearing that particular day. They push back at me. I'm saying that once you're together, there's no need to follow one another. So then when you unfollow somebody, it doesn't become this big event.
Well, if you've been around as long as Fremont Bank has, then yes. But I don't know. Talk to him, Dibs.
What are you doing? Do you follow your wife, Dibs?
I do follow my wife, which is hilarious, and she follows me as well. But funny you put it that way, because virtually everything she does, I'm either a part of or I'm aware of it. But it comes down more, Dan, to just general clout and respect. Like, I follow Mark Willard, and I follow Bonte and Joe and Steiny and Guru, and these are people that I spend more time with, really, than my own family, yet I follow them. And so it's not so much about being in the know with people you're surrounded by. It's about clout and respect. I will say this, though. Of all those people I mentioned that I follow, most of them are muted.
Well done. All right, Div. So wait, just fill me in here. Is this like the meatpacking district in New York? Is this a roof deck party? Is there an open bar? What are we doing on the roof here?
I'm sitting next to bankers and Supervisor David Halbert, who is a supervisor in this county. The mayor of Fremont is here. There's champagne. And I looked out on the street, guys, and there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people out here. You've got food trucks. You've got free drinks and drink tickets. There's a raffle with 60 prizes. All you have to do is come on down Fremont Boulevard and Capitol Avenue. You get registered. You get a wristband. You get drink tickets. Chewy Gomez from 102 Jams is out here spinning music on the ones and twos. It's an absolute street party. It's a fiesta, and your boy is about 90 seconds away from tipping a couple back and getting into real Dibberclaws mode. If you're in Fremont, come on out. I've already met a handful of listeners. Ain't no party like a bank party, guys. Capitol Avenue and Fremont Boulevard will be here till 2. Tell them Dibberclaw sent you.
Well, while we have you for another 90 or maybe at this point 60 seconds, I do want to broach the subject of banking with you because I think there's a quarterback in the South Bay that might be in need of Fremont Bank considering the payday that is going to be coming his way next summer. I'm talking about Brock Purdy. I know you guys discussed the impact that Trevor Lawrence's $275 million contract yesterday has on Brock Purdy, but what was your immediate, like your first thought in regards to Brock Purdy when you saw the golden child, Trevor Lawrence, get his bag?
Well, I thought that he's going to get a bag that's equally that big, if not bigger, depending on what kind of a year he has. And guys, do yourself a favor and look at Trevor Lawrence's year last year, which I believe was about 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 14 picks, and a 9-8 record. If Brock Purdy has that year, which would be a regression, and it would be a major disappointment for a Super Bowl favorite, he still is getting $50 million a year.
Dan Dibley, Dibs, once again, give him the address, and just before you sign off, just tell people where you're at and how they can find you.
It's a Fremont Bank headquarters grand opening, tallest building in Fremont, gorgeous construction, food trucks, beer, cocktails, beer, games. Did I mention beer? Fremont Boulevard and Capitol Avenue. People are streaming in to hear Chewy Gomez, DJ, Dan Dibley, Half in the Bag. Come on out and enjoy the gorgeousness that is the Fremont Bank headquarters. It's a grand opening, folks. Come on out. Fremont Boulevard and Capitol Avenue. Get here soon. Get here often. It's the Fremont Bank grand opening.
Dan Dibley, ladies and gentlemen, from Fremont Bank. Thanks, Dibs. We'll see and hear you on Monday.
My man.
All right, guys. Double D, Evan. See you soon.
I got to get out there. Actually, I am headed that way, honestly. Well, towards Pleasant Hill, but might have to make a minor detour down into downtown Fremont. I didn't realize there are 250,000 people there. That population is growing. I grew up in El Cerrito where there was like 30K.
You're an El Cerrito guy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Where did you go to high school once again?
St. Mary's College High School.
St. Mary's.
Yeah,
Okay.
Catholic school kid, though.
Yeah, familiar.
Brother went to EC, but grew up right up the
What's
block.
EC?
El Cerrito.
Don't go lingo on me like I live in the East Bay.
Dude, you literally went to a place that people refer to as SI. That is St. Ignatius for those not in the know.
All right. Let's close things talking about here in the final 15 minutes.
Don't make me unfollow you.
How do you? I'll leave it up to you. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go? I mean, we can do a much deeper dive into the San Francisco Giants and the lack of pitching on that baseball team as they lose to one of the worst teams in baseball, that being the Angels.
Well, here's something that I've been thinking about with the San Francisco Giants, and I think first pitch is around 1 o'clock today. They got embarrassed last night by the LA Angels, who are not a very good baseball team. So take that from what you will. But to me, Jorge Soler,
God, what is his deal?
He's the reason why the Giants will never be able to sign a big bat. He is the poster boy for underachievement from power hitting sluggers.
Because of the stadium?
If you look at what he's hit at Oracle Park compared to what he's done on the run, he ain't done much overall. But if you look at what he does at Oracle Park versus what he does away from it, it is night and day. All the power comes when he leaves San Francisco. And we were talking, I think it was on Thursday, to Brett Boone, who actually you know quite well from your time in Seattle. He was discussing how hitting on the road in Candlestick, the old Candlestick Park, wasn't something that he was necessarily afraid of. And so I was just curious, what the difference is between going there on the road, because there are players that come into San Francisco and hit the crap out of balls. Look at the New York Yankees a couple weekends ago. But knowing that you're going to play in a place for 81 games, I truly believe, Dan, that the deterrent for position players or for big name boppers, it's not the city. It is the ballpark. And so in one case, it is a blessing that it is a mausoleum, it is a necropolis. It is a beautiful venue to go watch a game, to enjoy my favorite sport. But for players, it is the deterrent. And the San Francisco Giants are not going to be able to get rid of that deterrent. And I just don't think that anybody worth their salt as a home run hitter is going to look at that park and say, that's where I want to go play.
Well, that's fine. Because they never really, I mean, aside from Barry Bonds, and you didn't win any World Series with Barry Bonds, I don't think that's, I don't think it's anything new. It's certainly, I think relevant because Soler's dealing with it right now, but this is a team that should be built around gap to gap, pitching, speed, and defense. I mean, that's essentially how they won their titles. I'm trying to think, Buster Posey could go deep, but it wasn't necessarily a team that had a murderer's row,
Yeah, Posey never hit 30 home runs.
Yeah, so this isn't... The Soler thing is just, listen, man, you don't even have to hit it out of the park. How about just, when there's runners in scoring position, you just coming through? Maybe you don't hit for a home run, but can you give me an average? How about just squaring something up? That is... He's sort of like... As much as we want to go after Snell, Farhan, I don't put that on Farhan. Soler was a good offseason signing. It's just now it's a matter of him producing. So, yeah, we can make the excuse that it's the stadium, but brother, come on, man. Some of this is falling directly on your shoulders.
No, it is, but my point is that if this guy, Jorge Soler, who's 6'4", 240 pounds, if you see him in person, and Ken can tell he's been out to the ballpark as well, New Jersey Ken can, he is a monstrosity of a man. He is a massive, massive human being, is he not? Jorge Soler.
Oh, yeah. I saw him in the clubhouse. Just jacked.
Oh, yeah. Big boy. And when you look at the few seasons that he's remained healthy, that's really been the biggest question about his career. It's not the power, at least until this season. It's been, can he stay on the field? He's played 100 games of his first 11 seasons, or his first 10 seasons, I should say, only 4 times has he got more than 100 games under his belt. Each time that he has played, essentially a full season. Kansas City did it once. He did it once between Kansas City and Atlanta when he was named MVP of the World Series, and then last season in Miami. The fewest home runs that he has hit has been 27. The most that he's hit has been 48. So I think a lot of players are looking at someone like Jorge Soler and saying that is the definition of a home run hitter.
Yeah.
That is the definition of a power hitter. And even he cannot conquer Oracle Park, which is supposed to be a place that hurts lefties but doesn't hurt righties as much. And that's just not been the case. And so, in a way, I think you're right. Farhan did make a smart signing of Jorge Soler this offseason because I think he got him at a relative bargain. He's a guy that profiles as a bopper, insert in the middle of the order, be able to drive in runs, all the rest. But in a way, I feel like the fact that he has not succeeded specifically at Oracle Park almost hurts you in trying to court future free agents.
I think Chris Bryant did well here. In his brief stint with the San Francisco Giants. He hasn't played well. And you can
he hasn't hit well.
You can look at this. Well, he doesn't play in the field, so
no.
He's a one-dimensional. So quite frankly, if he was to go down with another injury, it's not the worst thing that could happen to this team because you got Luciano and Matos who can come right back up. If Luciano can't play shortstop, well, you sure as hell can be a DH for this baseball team, right? The one thing he did prove is that he can make contact.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that if Soler for some reason can't play, I think it's the perfect spot to get Luciano's back in the majors and back with the San Francisco Giants. But Soler is a guy that for whatever reason, maybe because he intimidates the crap out of everybody, that he for whatever reason is not he has not received a lot of the criticism that some of the other players and some of the other front office officials, namely Farhan, have received. But yeah, it's time to and the same thing now as with Snell. I think that the grace period is over. Would you agree? And we know he's a notorious slow starter. That compounded with the fact that he missed spring training. He was dealing with an injury. Like, come on, man. We're getting into mid-June. Where the hell are you? You're pulling down over $30 million a year. Let's go. Let's go. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt, but now, come on. Let's go, man.
No, well, that's the thing. It's like on paper, this profiles as one of the best, if not the best, starting rotations in baseball. If I told you that you could have a healthy and effective Blake Snell, Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, Alex Cobb, Kyle Harrison, you'd take that 7 days a week. That is a strong starting 5. The issue is, one, a few of them are not healthy yet. Blake Snell also being one of them. And then when they have been, the only 2 guys that have had any sort of consistency. And by the way, I didn't even throw Jordan Hicks in there. because Hicks could be a sixth man, or could be a sixth starter. You could also put him back in the bullpen. Right, now, Logan Webb and Jordan Hicks have been the most consistent starters for this baseball team. But to go back, Dan, to the home run issue, there's only one ballpark that's been played in at the professional level over the last 3 seasons that is harder to hit home runs in. And this is factually damning. Would you like to know that stadium?
What is it?
It's in London. I'm serious. It is London Stadium. That's the only other place.
That's a trick question.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's my point, though. The Oracle Park is literally the hardest place to hit a home run. And it's just, well, number one, it shows up because the Giants don't do it. I mean, they're not dead last in home runs, but I just find it very difficult to believe that an offense in 2024 in the modern day can consistently produce runs without the help of the home run ball. And so there's going to be a lot of games like I would say the last series at home against the Astros where you're winning 2-1 or 1-0 like they did against the Phillies a couple weeks back or 5-3. They're not going to put up big numbers. And it just means that there's going to be a lot of games that you're kind of, we're in the 6th inning and there's 3 hits. And that's not a product that to me is, I think, interesting for a lot of average baseball fans.
Well, I think that's sort of where baseball is at collectively. I think you look at the league average. Right now, the Giants are hitting somewhere around 245 in that neighborhood, which is right about the medium of Major League Baseball this year. This is sort of like 1968 before they lowered the mound and Bob Gibson was just owning everybody. It's just baseball numbers we thought would, after the rule changes of a year ago and eliminating the shift, would head in the other direction. But that hasn't been the case this year.
You got to go back to juice balls, Dan.
I mean, it's just everybody's right around 240. Everybody comes to the plate. It's like hitting about 245. I mean, that's just, I think.
But that's why you need the home run more than ever now, is because the averages are dipping to a place we haven't seen them before. And so if you're not going to get the amount of hits like you used to, like, for example, the 2012 team, we talked about this because it was Matt Cain's 12-year anniversary of his perfect game, I think, yesterday. Or maybe it was 2 days ago. But that team was literally dead last in the National League in home runs. They still won games because they were able to hit as a team around 270. If you're telling me a team can't hit 270, and if they do, they have a bevy of bats, well, then I need you to hit some home runs, and this Giants team cannot do it.
Well, think about, it was just a short, 2-3 years ago, 2021, when they won 106 games.
Yeah.
Who led the National League in home runs? So it can be done.
They did, but I would say that most of those were not at home. Now, they hit more at Oracle Park than they have, in recent memory. But I think that in terms of total home runs, they were still middle of the pack at Oracle. They did a lot of their damage with the bat and the bombs on the road.
Well, then let that be. Then do it on the road, Soler. Who cares where you do it? Just do it.
Yeah.
So I think Soler is, I hear what you're saying, but he's been a disappointment regardless of whether or not he's hitting home runs on the road or at home.
I think the only free agent that hasn't been a disappointment is Matt Chapman. I guess Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks has been good.
Is Jordan Hicks sustainable, though?
I have my doubts.
I mean, I'm with you. If you're thinking about getting Robbie Ray back, and if you're hoping on Alex Cobb coming back, listen, Robbie Ray had, Tommy John surgery, which is usually 2 years. It's been barely a year. He ain't pitching this year. Sorry to break it to you.
Oh, no. Yes, he is.
You think Robbie Ray will come back this year?
He's been promised. I don't know if he is, but I hope he is.
And when you shut down,
they need him.
When you shut down your man Alex Cobb because of a shoulder injury, that ain't a good sign. In the middle of his rehab, you shut down anybody. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, New Jersey Ken's still waiting on Kodai Senga, who's had about 17 setbacks.
Yeah, he won't be back until the All-Star break, or so we think.
Oh, boy.
All right, Jersey Ken. So
let Jimmy jacket.
So Jersey Ken, will you get on Instagram and see what it is that your wife posted today?
She's not really much of a poster. That's the kind of the beauty of it all. Like, I don't really have to, unless it's something about my kid, and she'll add me to the story, and then I just add it to my story because, my kid.
All right, makes sense.
Hey, you got to post about your kid. You
gotta.
You gotta post.
I'm going to post something specifically for you today. Will you follow me?
I don't follow you.
I don't know.
I unfollowed you. I scrubbed you from my social media.
And on that,
to send a message.
For my man, Evan Giddings, is Jersey Ken. This is Dan Devone. It's been fun. We'll see you back here next week. Until then, enjoy the weekend, everybody. So long. Do you want to be on top?
So, how's your research going?
Surprising. After I figured out the top-rated TVs in our price range, I went shopping for deals.
And